Young master. Anur can feel his rage. Ling Anur gripped Shengwan Wan'er's hand, watching my back with deep concern. She had never seen me this angry. Shengwan Wan'er patted her hand, her eyes fixed on our master. Swish, sword light flashed, and more red-clad soldiers fell. I surged toward the West Chamber Pavilion. Sujiu, handle the rest. Protect my maids and kill these outsiders. My voice echoed as I left the courtyard. The Su prince's estate needed no outsiders. I was here to reclaim my home. Understood. Su family Iron Guard. Sujiu is here. Prepare to die. Sujiu drew his blade, his power erupting. A simple, plain slash cut through the air, silencing the wind. Crack. The space itself seemed to fracture. The courtyard fell into an eerie silence. The soldiers were stunned, their weapons clattering to the ground. Nirvana. Nirvana realm. Someone whispered in despair. First a Baishui realm expert, now a Nirvana realm master, the strongest level below Chuanqi. There was no escape. Splatter, blood sprayed as over 1,000 servants and soldiers fell, each with a finger-sized hole in their forehead. If not for the need to let the young master vent his rage, I would have slaughtered you all sooner, Sujiu muttered. Sujiu sheathed his blade and followed me, fearing for my safety. After all, Su family experts were still lurking in the shadows. Inside the West Chamber Pavilion. Wretch! How dare you oppose me? Slap! You think being a maid to my mother gives you power? I am the mistress here. Slap! Still glaring? You're asking for it. The sound of the whip and vicious insults echoed from the room. Poor military advisor Nian. She deserves it for trying to build a faction for that way Suyu. Delusional. Exactly. She even sent Sujiu away. She's tired of living. She's just a stupid woman. A shame, though. She's so pretty, and she's been whipped for 10 days. Hush. If the mistress hears you, you're dead. We're lucky to be servants here, thanks to her. Right? Wait. Why is it so noisy outside? The maids huddled together, whispering. One walked toward the door to investigate. Boom! The door exploded into splinters as I kicked it open in a rage. Aya! The maid screamed as I, clad in white and holding a sword, stepped in with a face like thunder. I had heard every word they said. Who are you? This is the Forbidden West Chamber. Get out before I have you killed, a maid shouted haughtily. Merged into 6646. You are Suyu. A maid collapsed in terror. The others stared in disbelief at me, radiating killing intent. Merged into 6649. How dare you insult Aunt Nian? My voice chilled their souls. I lunged, my sword flashing, cutting down every maid in the room. It was swift and merciless. Blood pooled as the maids fell, their faces twisted in despair. I rarely struck women, but I would kill those who crossed my line. I heard the whip again and rushed to the bedroom. Boom! I kicked the door down. Who's there? Madame Su shrieked. It's me. Your young master is home. I roared. Madame Su stood there, holding a blood-stained whip, staring in panic. At her feet sat military advisor Nian, her hands bound, dressed in torn green robes. Her skin was pale and bruised, her clothes shredded by the whip, her body exposed and trembling in pain. Merged into 6659, the blood on her robes stung my eyes. The cruelty of this woman made my heart tremble with rage. Suyu, Madame Su gasped. You're... Military advisor Nian's voice rang out with surprised delight, clear as a songbird, her expressive eyes shimmering with emotion. How dare you? How dare you treat my Aunt Nian this way? I trembled with fury, gripping my sword. I cast a single pained glance at military advisor Nian, then fixed Madame Su with a cold, merciless stare. Aunt Nian has missed you so much. Didn't I tell you not to return to the Imperial capital? Why won't you listen? Military advisor Nian's voice was soft and gentle, her eyes fixed adoringly on my face, dimples appearing in her flushed cheeks. Seeing me, she seemed to forget her pain entirely. She carried herself with a youthful warmth that belied her age, combined with a composed grace all her own. No wonder Madame Su harbored such jealous hatred toward her. Her beauty rivaled the Su sisters, with an added poise they lacked. There was a faint note of reproach in military advisor Nian's tone, as though she was more worried about my recklessness in returning than about her own injuries. Even now, she was thinking of my safety. Aunt Nian. I stepped forward at once. My heart ached for her. I shrugged off my white outer cloak and draped it over her shoulders, covering her torn, disordered clothing. I rose to my feet and tightened my grip on the sword. Killing intent. Dense, suffocating killing intent flooded the room. Is that any way to speak to your mother? Forcing composure, Madame Zhou dropped the whip and snapped. How dare you barge into my room? You are no mother of mine. What is that in your hand? Who gave you the gall to whip Tian? I advanced, my gaze locked onto Madame Zhou with lethal intensity. She is a disobedient servant. I am merely enforcing house rules. You return home, fail to pay respects, and now you trespass. Madame Zhou glared with venomous intent, trying to deflect, but I roared. Enough. I hurled the true Emperor's sword. It grazed her cheek and buried itself deep into the wall behind her. The blade hummed with my fury. Call her a servant again, and I will tear your mouth off. I snarled, my usual refinement shattered. Terrified, Madame Zhou paled and shrieked. Guardian Zhou. Guardian Zhou. Save your breath, mistress. He's dead. Zhou called out lazily from the doorway. Carry on, young master. I'm keeping watch. A heavy thud echoed as a corpse hit the floor outside, followed by total silence. Attendant Zhou? He's likely a dead dog by now. Without a Chuanqi expert, who can stand against a Nirvana realm powerhouse? Madame Zhou's face turned deathly pale. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead as she watched me approach. Trembling, she cried, Don't forget, with your father away, I am the master of the Zhou prince's mansion. Do you dare commit matricide and defy the world? Matricide? Do you even deserve to be called my mother? My voice was chillingly cold. Even if I kill a vicious stepmother like you, so what? She thought she could use moral duty to restrain me? I valued my reputation, but a real man would never tolerate a venomous woman harming those around me. Did she think my sword was blunt? Even if the world spat on me, I would never allow my loved ones to suffer the slightest harm. You. Madame Zhou panicked as I closed in, her composure completely shattered. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground, trembling in terror, cold sweat pouring down her face. Days ago, she believed she controlled everything. Even when the first prince asked her to probe me, she thought he was overreacting. How wrong she was. The moment I returned, the situation flipped. Her schemes, her arrogance, and her pride, all of it looked pathetic and laughable in the face of my dominance. Only now did Madame Zhou truly understand the meaning of retribution. Stay back. Madame Zhou retreated in terror, her whip clattering to the floor. She never imagined I would have the audacity to storm her courtyard and rescue military advisor Tian immediately upon returning. Her plan to use Tian as leverage against me had backfired completely. I had become far more arrogant and domineering than she anticipated. Terrified that I intended to kill her, she was interrupted by Tian. You is obedient and wouldn't kill without cause. However, I have a letter from General Zhou in my room stating that upon his return to the Imperial capital, Zhou has full authority over all household matters, including the disposal of the madam. Military advisor Tian adjusted her cloak, her brow furrowed in pain as she spoke softly. Her gentle, harmless tone caused Madame Zhou's expression to shift violently. The letter's implication was clear. The general had authorized me to kill her if necessary. You treacherous wench, why didn't you tell me this? Madame Zhou fell into utter despair. Military advisor Tian had hidden this ace up her sleeve. She had intended to use moral righteousness to pressure me, hoping to deter me from matricide by fear of public condemnation. But it was too late. As the head of the family, God of War Suoyang had already issued his decree. By delegating full authority over the Zhou prince's mansion to me, Madame Zhou's status as mistress had become irrelevant. She had lost her moral high ground. God of War Suoyang had anticipated my return and entrusted me with the power to decide everything. Smack! I strode forward and delivered a brutal slap to Madame Zhou's face. You are the lowly servant of the Zhou family. Several of Madame Zhou's teeth were knocked out. Stunned and horrified, she stared at me. You practice martial Dao? You've actually entered the path of martial arts. The sheer internal force behind that slap was undeniable. This was the most unacceptable truth for her. The trash heir of the Zhou prince's mansion was now a martial artist. This revelation would reignite the loyalty of officials who had previously lost hope in the Zhou prince's mansion. In this era, the caliber of an heir is everything to a great power. I was that heir, and my every move held immense weight. Your military advisor Nian's eyes shimmered with delight. To her, the suffering she had endured paled in comparison to the joy of discovering my martial prowess. I have always practiced martial arts, I said coldly, picking up the whip. What are you doing? Madame Su's eyes widened in terror. You can't kill me. I am a daughter of the Su family and a concubine to the first prince. Kill you? It won't be that simple. I stared coldly at her. Today, I am divorcing you on my father's behalf. From this moment on, you, Su Jiao, have no connection to the Su prince's mansion. My declaration was absolute. On my first day back, I had deposed the head mistress with ruthless authority. Divorce, on his behalf. Madame Su froze, her expression twisting into one of spite. Humiliated, she felt her pride trampled into the dirt. The head mistress of the Su family had been cast aside by the young master. Realizing she wouldn't be killed, Madame Su sneered. Fine, you little Su family trash. I'm returning to the Su family tomorrow. Let's see how your Su family falls to ruin. She assumed I spared her only out of fear for the Su family and the first prince. No longer afraid, she vowed to unite the Su family and the first prince to crush the Su prince's mansion, leaving Su Long and me to live in eternal regret. Madame Su gritted her teeth in silent rage. With a flick of my wrist, I cracked my whip in the air. Want to go back? My apologies, that won't be happening. My voice was chillingly cold. You misunderstand. Just because I'm not killing you now doesn't mean I won't later. I will repay the 100 lashes you gave Aunt Nian 100-fold. Until then, you will live. My tone, like a devil crawling from hell, left Madame Su trembling in terror. No, you can't. My nephew is the crown prince, and my family are imperial capital nobles. Madame Su's face stiffened before she wailed in despair. Please, don't kill me. I've served the Su prince's mansion for 20 years. Spare me for that. She no longer dared to claim the title of my mother to beg for mercy. Knowing her past actions only deepened my resentment. She tried to leverage her service to the estate to soften my heart. She banked on her perception of me as a gentle, conflict-averse man. She had to beg. The prospect of enduring 100-fold punishment before execution was far more terrifying than death itself. Ask your conscience. Have you served the Su prince's estate for 20 years, or have you sold it out? You've used our reputation to benefit the Su family and bolstered the first prince's claim to the throne. I sneered. I was only soft-hearted toward my own. For enemies, I was ruthless. This wasn't just about divorcing a wife on my father's behalf. It was about settling scores for military advisor Nian. I wouldn't let her die easily. Madame Su turned deathly pale, trembling at my words. Realizing I intended to repay the whipping she inflicted on Nian 100-fold, she felt as if she had fallen into an icy abyss. She was filled with despair and regret, never expecting me to become so cold and brutal. Sujio, get in here, I commanded coldly. Yes. Sujio entered, head bowed, and saluted. What are your orders, young master? Take this. I threw the whip to Sujio and pointed at the trembling Madame Su. Drag this wretch out. Have the servants whip her 100 times a day, day and night. This. Sujio hesitated, worried about the repercussions from the Su family and the first prince if she died. Die? I never intended for her to leave this estate alive. I sneered. I'll give you some items to keep her alive. Once she finally dies, deliver her corpse to the first prince. Whipping her to death was an act of mercy. I would settle the rest of my debts with the first prince later. Sujio obeyed, dragging the screaming Madame Su out by her hair. Even he felt a surge of righteous anger for what she had done to the military advisor. Madame Su was dragged away to face her grim fate. My expression softened as I sheathed the true emperor's sword and approached Nian with the tenderness one might show a precious treasure. Are you cold? I asked, tightening her cloak. No, she replied softly. Nian looked at me with clear, joyful eyes. You've become domineering, not like the gentle youth I once knew, she noted. Do you not like it, Aunt Nian? I do, but I fear your mother would be furious if she saw you acting like a tyrant. Then take care of yourself. If I hadn't returned in time, you would have been whipped to death. My tone was harsh, but my eyes betrayed deep concern. Their relationship was complex, part master-servant, part family. Before me, the usually cool-headed military advisor acted like a simple young girl. I knew nothing could be hidden from you, she giggled. She smiled, her eyes curving like crescent moons. Tian was too clever to be caught so easily. She had allowed herself to be captured to force my hand. She knew only I had the power to sanction Madame Su, and she had calculated my return to the capital. She feared that if I remained passive, I would continue to be suppressed by the Su family. She risked her own safety to ignite my fury, ensuring I would finally move to depose the matriarch. To oppose the first prince, one must secure the home front first. Everything she did was for my future. I realized this was all her calculated layout, which left me both annoyed and touched. I couldn't bring himself to scold her. I sighed. Frowning makes you look ugly, she teased, smoothing my brow. She laughed in my arms, looking triumphant. I carried her out, where Ling Anur and Shangwan Wanner waited. Anur, prepare a room in the east chamber for her treatment. Wanner, draft a copy of my father's letter and announce my divorce of the wife to the entire capital. My voice was calm yet authoritative. Since I couldn't hide, I would let the first prince know I wasn't afraid. This was my declaration of war. Yes, young master. The two girls bowed, curiously eyeing the woman in my arms. So this is the military advisor? So young and beautiful, Tian teased. I see you've finally learned to keep pretty girls around. She looked at me with a mix of playfulness and melancholy. They are just maids, I replied. Just maids? They look at you with such longing. Are you sure you haven't eaten them yet? I feigned sternness, embarrassed. Stop thinking such things, or I'll marry you off. Oh, my little you is shy, she giggled. She pinched my cheek playfully. I won't marry. I'm your mother's maid, and I'll stay by your side forever. I shook my head, carrying her into the east chamber. I spent 5,000 public support energy in the Myriad Realms Mall to buy top-tier healing medicines. For Tian, I would spend hundreds of thousands without blinking. Tian watched me work, her eyes filled with adoration. My focused, handsome face made her heart flutter. The estate's women knew I was the most caring man. My unique gentleness and respect for women made me the object of many girls' dreams in the capital. Don't move, I'm applying medicine. What about the wounds on my back? Will you apply it there too? She asked, looking at me with alluring, peach blossom eyes. She was truly a temptress. I wondered how beautiful my own mother must be if she surpassed Tian. Ahem. I cleared my throat, looking away. I'll call a maid to help. Shy again. Come now, I don't mind, she teased. I've seen you since you were a child. It's just healing, after all. She had been by my side since I was a boy, acting as both sister and maid. Absolutely not. I fled the room. Taking advantage of her in this state was not my style. Ha! Tian laughed, calling out. Send those maids in you. I want to see them. She knew that despite my gentleness, I was notoriously distant with women. Getting close to the Suoyang master was usually impossible. Tian Xingyi wondered what charms Suoyang's two maids used to earn such favor. Got it, I replied, wiping sweat from my brow with a wry smile. I signaled the guards to summon Ling Anur and Shangwan Wanner. It was late, but I couldn't rest yet. I went outside to oversee the cleanup of the Su family servants I had executed. I replaced them with my own loyal servants brought from Beishan County. Gao Shun's 800 traversing camp soldiers were stationed as guards, while Su Jiu stood watch near the East Chamber Pavilion. The East Chamber Pavilion, where I and my women resided, was the most heavily guarded area of the estate. Once deployed, I retreated to my study and opened the system. I need to bolster the estate's defenses, I muttered. I browsed the Myriad Realms Mall, deep in thought. Tian Xingyi had revealed that Madame Su forced Su Huin and Su Huimi to the Sword Pavilion and Qinhai Cliff to better serve the first prince. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. I loathed Madame Su's betrayal and vowed to protect the Su sisters at all costs. Madame Su had even sent the Black Jade Cavalry away under the guise of protection, stripping the estate of its defenses. I couldn't rely solely on my troops and Su Jiu. I needed more trump cards to survive potential assassination attempts by the first prince or the Su family. I refused to die in the capital so soon. With the wedding date moved up, the sisters would return soon. I needed to be strong enough to keep them safe in a secure mansion. With 110,000 public support energy, I was ready to spend. With Zhuge managing Beishan, my energy income was steady. I was no longer the penniless youth I once was. I could afford high-tier items. I spotted a promising item. Dipper Star Formation, a legendary, ancient killing formation. It requires 365 main banners, 14,800 secondary banners, and immense power to operate. It was a top-tier formation from a cultivation plane, far beyond the Four Directions continent. It would easily dominate this high martial world. However, the price made me recoil. Dipper Star Formation, 10 billion public support energy. Restricted due to low territory level. 10 billion. It was impossible. I couldn't afford it, nor did I meet the requirements. But I had a backup plan. Dipper Star Formation, incomplete minor array, a stationary auxiliary version of the main formation. Costs 100,000 public support energy. Perfect. I would buy this. Even a minor array was expensive, but worth it. Quality comes at a price. Buy it. The system confirmed the purchase and prompted me to choose a location. The system chimed. A map of the Su Prince's mansion and Beishan appeared. I chose the Su Prince's mansion. The formation materialized, spreading a transparent ripple across the entire estate. The lake rippled, and the rockeries and roof tiles began to shimmer. The stars above seemed to brighten, resonating with the mansion before the light faded. Formation installed. The core is within the system. Feed it energy to activate. Done. The minor star array offered defense, counterattacks, illusions, and soul-sealing capabilities. While a toy for cultivators, it was peerless in this world. Satisfied, I continued browsing for more deals. Lingener knocked, bringing me porridge. I felt a surge of warmth. Their devotion was exactly why I fought so hard. Lingener entered, carrying a steaming stone bowl. She moved carefully, blowing on the hot bowl. I took it from her, chiding her gently for carrying something so hot. I don't want others touching your food, she giggled. I praised her cooking, feeling touched. Nian suggested I make it, she added happily. Seeing her joy, I smiled. Where's Wanner? Did you treat Nian's wounds? Wanner is making the bed. We treated Nian, and she told us. She trailed off, blushing deeply. What did she say? I asked. She said you're of age, but haven't been close to any girls. She told us to serve you well and try to become your women before you marry the princess. She whispered, mortified. I choked on my porridge. Nian was still as unconventional as ever, having planted these ideas in the sisters' heads since they were 15. Military advisor Nian insists that since the maids have no blood relation to me, they should grow closer to me, claiming I brought them back specifically for them to care for me. Nian even uses her music lessons to indoctrinate Miss Huyen with the idea that my needs are paramount. I realize Nian is the one person in the world most eager to see me surrounded by a harem of beauties. Don't listen to her nonsense, I said, embarrassed. I had considered taking Lingener, but the heavy burdens of my current situation left me no time for romance. I decided to keep the two maids by my side for now. Lingener whispered. Nian said we can't let Princess Mingzhu take the young master's first time, or our Su Prince's estate will look useless. I nearly choked on my porridge. Nian, you insubordinate maid. I was baffled by her obsession with my virginity instead of the Imperial capital's political crisis. I compared her meddling to the unscrupulous system. Young master, do you dislike us? I feel useless because you never let me warm your bed, Lingener asked timidly. The young maid felt insecure. I softened, comforting her. Don't listen to Nian. You're the best, and I love you most. Lingener looked up, her eyes sparkling with joy. A single word of encouragement from me was enough to make her heart melt. Yes. I changed the subject. This porridge is delicious. Why haven't you made it before? Nian taught me to make this Suoyang stone porridge. She says it's vital for your health, so you have the strength to handle me and the other women later. Lingener asked innocently. Did I do something wrong? Why would Nian say you need to handle me? I spat out my porridge. Young master, are you all right? Lingener rushed to wipe my robe, full of concern. Is the porridge bad? Did I say something wrong? She looked ready to cry, pleading for me not to despise her. Wait here. I stood up and shouted toward the west room. Nian, what on earth have you been telling her? My voice echoed through the estate. Haha, I'm doing it for your own good. Nian's bell-like laughter drifted from her room. She loved teasing me, finding my flustered reaction endearing. Her laughter lightened the mood. though I returned to my room dejected. "I'll marry you off," I muttered. I felt helpless against my own maid's teasing. Hearing this, Lingener burst into tears, terrified of being sent away. She was deeply hurt and confused. Her heart felt shattered. Seeing her tear-streaked face, I felt a pang of guilt. I pulled her into my arms. "You silly girl, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Nian. I need you to keep making me porridge. I'd never send you away." I poked her nose affectionately. She was like a fragile, innocent rabbit. "Really?" she asked, still teary-eyed. "Of course." I wiped her tears, smiling. "When have I ever lied to you?" "Then promise me one thing," she said. I agreed without hesitation. "I want to warm your bed tonight," she whispered. I was stunned. I had planned to spend the night reviewing intelligence reports. "You promised," she pouted, insisting I get some rest. Touched, I agreed and patted her head. Unlike the others, Anur wasn't the smartest or most talented, but her love was woven into the small, daily details of my life. Her entire heart was tied to me. Her dependence and sincerity moved me deeply. To be loved like this was a rare blessing. I led her to my bedroom, where Shangwan Waner was finishing up. I decided to have both maids join me. The warmth of their bodies was comforting. The scent of me filled the room, making both maids blush. They waited in anticipation, but I fell asleep almost instantly. Waner reached out to touch my chest, but I grabbed her hand in my sleep, murmuring, "Don't make a fuss." The maid sighed, watching me with pity. I was exhausted, not physically, but from the mental pressure. I bore the burden of the entire Su prince's estate in Baishan County alone. An ordinary man would have collapsed long ago. I slept soundly, while the two maids spent a restless, heart-pounding night beside me. The next morning, a massive rumor swept the Imperial capital. "Did you hear? The Su prince's estate issued a public notice." "What notice?" "The young master returned and annulled his marriage. The letter has already been delivered to the Su family." My God, I have gone mad. I actually divorced Madame Su. He returned to the Imperial capital only last night and already ousted her. I don't believe he has the guts. The streets buzzed with shock and skepticism. The capital's citizens were more perceptive than most. Madame Su had long been at odds with the Su bloodline, but with God of War Su Long in the northern frontier, no one could challenge her power. She had effectively controlled the Su prince's estate for nearly 20 years. Recently, she had purged over 1,000 old servants, replacing them with her own loyalists. How could she have fallen in just one night? Impossible. If Su Long isn't here, how could that waste of a young master challenge her? In a tea house, patrons sneered at the mention of me. Like father, like son. The father is a hero, but the son is a failure. Who else but the God of War could stop her? That coward? He couldn't possibly have the ruthlessness to storm the estate and divorce her. Exactly. The news must be fake. With the God of War away, the estate is in chaos. My return just adds another mouth to feed. I can't threaten her position. She has the backing of the entire Su family and is the first prince's aunt. Many agreed, mocking my supposed actions. The atmosphere mirrored the malice directed at me 6 months ago. A man stood up, sneering. "Fools. The young master returned last night, was blocked by her lackeys, and responded by storming the estate and seizing her." "True," another added. "My relative lives nearby. They heard fighting all night. The young master held his father's letter and divorced the wicked woman to restore family honor." "He has an army?" the crowd gasped. "Impossible. It must be the God of War's secret arrangement. The estate has the red-clad army. Only the Black Jade cavalry could defeat them." "Exactly. It must be the God of War's doing. That little waste couldn't do it." "Ignorant fools. The troops are from Baishan County. They are infantry, not the Black Jade cavalry." The crowd fell silent as they realized the guards were indeed infantry. A chill swept through the tea house. The Su waste actually has his own army. He's only been in Baishan for a short time. The skeptics were stunned into silence. A man named Lu Hansen burst in, sweating. "Innkeeper T. Lu Hansen, you're the capital's know-it-all. What happened at the Su estate?" Everyone leaned in. "I know everything," Lu Hansen said, gulping down tea. "My brother just returned from the scene." "Well, the young master used his father's letter to divorce her. The troops are indeed a new army, not the Black Jade cavalry. And They've been hauling out corpses all morning. Over 2,000 servants and 1,000 red-clad soldiers were slaughtered. They're dumping them in mass graves outside the city. My God, the room went deathly still. While noble families are permitted to execute their own, the scale was unprecedented. I had wiped out Madame Su's entire power base in one night. He's more ruthless than the god of war himself. Liu Hansen's voice trembled. It was a brutal purge to ensure no spies remained. No one dared look down on me anymore. Killing 3,000 people without blinking. This was the work of a cold-blooded general. And my brother said there were only about 800 or 900 soldiers total. Less than 1,000 men wiped out twice their number in red-clad soldiers. The room was filled with the sound of fearful swallowing. I wasn't a waste, I was a demon. The reality of my transformation was undeniable. They didn't know I acted because of the suffering inflicted upon military advisor Tian, turning me into a vengeful force. Fear gripped the capital. The waste had truly changed. Meanwhile, at the Zhou family estate, the study was filled with gloom. Grandfather, this is a provocation. He divorced our aunt and announced it to the whole city. He's humiliated us. I'll take my guards and settle this. We can't let a waste trample our honor. He dared to bypass Suoyang. The letter must be a forgery. The Zhou clan clamored for vengeance. They were furious that the boy they once despised had struck back so hard. The patriarch of the Zhou family sat at the head of the table, his face stern. Enough! His roar silenced the room. Look at you. You act like street thugs, not nobles. You want to attack the Zhou estate? Do you want the god of war to return and wipe out our entire family? Suoyang was a man of strategy, not just a brute. The patriarch knew Suoyang was a protective tiger. If anyone touched his children, he would abandon the frontier to destroy them. But father, we cannot just ignore this. The Zhou family's eldest son stood up, sternly declaring, Father, we can swallow our pride, but my sister is still in the Zhou prince's mansion. Who knows how I am tormenting her? We must rescue her. Agreed. The big picture matters, but we cannot abandon her. She must be saved. Many echoed his sentiment, their faces twisted with hatred whenever my name was mentioned. We will save her, of course. Patriarch Zhou affirmed, his eyes narrowing as he mused. I never expected that brat to have such guts. His transformation is truly surprising. Father, his demeanor upon returning to the capital is completely different. It's as if he's a new person, which complicates our plans. The eldest son reminded him. What complications? No matter how strong his troops are, the boy himself remains a useless waste. Others sneered, dismissing me with utter contempt. Father, I suggest sending elite assassins into the mansion to kill him and rescue my sister. We can then reclaim control of the Zhou prince's mansion. The second son proposed, though the eldest frowned. That's unwise. Brother, what's unwise about it? He's a talentless waste. One blade is all it takes. Once he's dead, his few hundred guards won't be able to stir up any trouble. The third son laughed confidently. Exactly. He is no obstacle. Our true target has always been Suoyang. The second son added, his tone dripping with disdain. If he were truly smart, he wouldn't have returned to the capital at all. Someone laughed. 7,018. He's just delusional enough to think he can marry Princess Mingzhu. He doesn't even realize he's walking into a trap set by the first prince. He's still the same old fool. He'll likely die before he even lays eyes on the princess. The room erupted in mocking laughter. But what if the assassination fails? The eldest son frowned, feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. He couldn't pinpoint the source of his anxiety. The second son scoffed. Our assassins are elite. Even if they fail once, they won't fail twice. The others agreed, eager to teach me a lesson. Father, we support the second brother's plan. Patriarch Zhou waved his hand. Fine. Send a gift to the first prince and ask him to demand my daughter back. If he refuses, send the assassins to test his strength and capture him. He'll be a useful bargaining chip against Suoyang. The Zhou family had to retaliate, or the other noble houses would think them weak. A cold, murderous glint flashed in the patriarch's eyes. Understood, the family members chorused. I hope he doesn't die too easily. I want to see the fear on his face, one added. I want to see him begging on his knees like a dog. The Zhou prince's mansion is nothing compared to our estate. It's a dying ruin. They plotted various ways to torture me, feeling smug. They were all convinced that I had made a fatal mistake returning to the capital. To them, I was still the same pathetic waste as before. Even if I were slightly smarter, I couldn't possibly survive the combined pressure of the Zhou family and the first prince. Meanwhile, at the Zhou prince's mansion, in the training grounds, it was high noon, and the early summer sun was scorching. I sat cross-legged, eyes closed, channeling public support energy to circulate my internal force through the true Emperor scroll. The open-air environment allowed my 9 spiritual vortices to absorb energy more efficiently. As my strength grew, I could now control these vortices to absorb energy steadily without drawing unwanted attention. Nearby, Nian Qingyi sat in a wheelchair, accompanied by her maids, Shangwan Wan'er and Ling An'er. Nian's legs were still recovering from past injuries. Although I had treated her, the system advised continued rest, as the medicine wasn't top tier and she wasn't a martial artist. She needed another half-month of recovery. Watching me, Nian Qingyi's lips curled into a gentle smile. To think Uer can practice martial arts now, and he's stronger than the capital's heavenly prides. She whispered, watching my back. Young master works so hard, Shangwan Wan'er said softly. Even in Beishan, he practiced late into the night. Ling An'er nodded vigorously. Everyone in Beishan knew of my diligence. I never slacked off, knowing the heavy burden I carried. Strength comes from diligence. Uer always knew that, even when he couldn't practice, Nian sighed. She smiled brightly. But now he can. His mother would be so proud. Aunt Nian, what was his mother like? The young master never speaks of her, Ling An'er asked curiously. 7052, she knew I cared about my origins, but Nian and Su Long remained silent. Nian Qingyi sighed, her expression shifting as she changed the subject. An'er, I heard Uer bought Beauty's slumber and gave it to you? She ignored the question, her tone carrying a subtle, inherent authority. Mentioning my mother clearly affected her deeply. Shangwan Wan'er noticed Nian was hiding something. The innocent Ling An'er replied, Yes, he did. How much did he pay? Nian asked. 1 gold coin, An'er replied. Nian laughed, her beauty radiant. Uer is so mischievous. She knew the item had originally belonged to me. It was ironic I bought it back to gift it. An'er, if you love the Qin, I shall teach you, Nian offered. Really? Thank you, Aunt Nian. An'er beamed. She knew Nian was one of the capital's greatest masters of the Qin Dao. The 3 beautiful women surrounded me, their laughter filling the air. Emperors struggled to find one such beauty, yet I had 3 by my side. Anyone witnessing this would be green with envy. Ding. Training complete. Consumed 5,686 points of public support energy. I opened my eyes, a sharp glint within. It was a pity I hadn't yet broken through to the Ranshan realm. I sighed. The higher my cultivation, the more public support energy I required. Having spent 100,000 yesterday, I lacked enough to reach the Ranshan realm. Crossing from the Baishui realm to the Ranshan realm was a major hurdle. I stood up and headed to the training grounds, smiling at the 3 women. What are you chatting about so happily? I wore tight training gear, revealing my bronzed, sturdy muscles. My physique was perfect, defined, angular, and radiating intense masculinity. Ling An'er blushed, unable to meet my gaze as she handed me a bowl of tea. She felt her heart race at my proximity. I downed the tea, and Nian Qingyi remarked, I hadn't realized your physique had become so impressive, Uer. Nian Qingyi's eyes lit up as she playfully pinched the muscle on my arm. Aunt Nian, stop that, I said awkwardly. Why? I touched every inch of you when you were a child. What's one more time? She teased. Nian Qingyi arched her brows, her expression alluring and mischievous. I was speechless, my head throbbing at her lack of decorum. I heard someone in their room last night plotting to marry me off. Does someone think I'm old and useless, wanting to cast me out? Her voice was sweet, but her fingers twisted into my arm. It wasn't me. I never said that. I quickly set down my tea, protesting. Aunt Nian is as beautiful as a fairy. I could never tire of having you by my side. Aunt Nian, please let go, it hurts. Seeing my pitiful expression, Nian Qingyi smiled and released me. That's better. Shangwan Wan'er and Ling An'er giggled, rarely seeing their usually composed master like this. Shangwan Wan'er wiped my sweat and draped a robe over my shoulders. A servant approached, bowing. Master, A guest sent by the first prince requests an audience. The first prince? What for? I asked. Nian Qingyi gestured for the other two to leave. Understanding that business was at hand, they left to practice Qin Dao, leaving me alone. He brought a letter from the first prince, asking you to release Madame Su as a favor to the Su family and the prince. The servant spoke respectfully. He wants me to release her? I laughed. Tear up the letter, beat the messenger, and throw him out. The first prince's influence meant nothing here. I would not compromise on this matter. Madame Su had harmed Nian Qingyi and had to die. My aggression was both for vengeance and a calculated move. The servant obeyed, and I headed to my study. A short while later, the servant returned. Master, the first prince has sent another messenger. I, busy checking my territory via the system, was taken aback. Another one so soon? Is he addicted to this? Tell him if he wants me to release her, he must come to the Su prince's estate himself. I commanded calmly. The first prince wouldn't dare enter the estate. If he did, I would kill him. The servant returned with an invitation. The messenger said this isn't about the prisoner, but an invitation to the civil and military banquet on the Manhua River tonight. I studied the blue invitation. An invitation from the first prince. To go or not to go? The timing of the two messengers felt orchestrated. It was likely a trap. I stroked my chin, my eyes glinting with intrigue. Inviting me on my second day in the capital? The first prince was impatient. I decided to go. It was a perfect opportunity to probe the prince. The first prince wanted me dead, but realized he couldn't act rashly yet. A cautious man like the prince would only strike after fully assessing my strength. As I suspected, both messengers were part of the prince's plan. If I had released Madame Su, the prince would have deemed me weak and easily manipulated. The prince feared a hidden, patient enemy more than an overt one. If I had complied, an ambush would have followed. By refusing, I appeared impulsive, prompting the prince to send the second invitation to test me further. The prince's schemes were deep, and his way of thinking was far from ordinary. How will you play this game? What are you waiting for? I muttered, tapping my desk. I remained calm, calculating the capital's political landscape. Putting myself in my enemy's shoes to deduce their bottom line was my specialty. For the first prince, it was all a matter of cost-benefit analysis. He would strike when the benefit was maximized, assuming I wasn't an immediate threat. I had spent months studying the prince's profile. Knowing the enemy was essential. My aggressive dismissal of the first messenger was a calculated mask. Every step required careful counter-calculation. One slip could lead to being trapped and killed. Evening fell. Summon Wanner and Anur. Tell Su Zhou to ready the carriage. I'm going to the Manhua River for some fun. I opened my study door, my voice clear. Understood. The servant bowed. In the capital, the Literary Society and Enlightenment Sword Cliff were the two major grassroots factions. Young scholars gathered at the society, while martial artists trained at the Sword Cliff. Both were founded by my sisters. Su Huimi led the society, and Su Huimi led the Sword Cliff. The sisters were the idols of the capital's youth. I had suggested these groups to ensure the Su prince's estate held deep, lasting influence. With the sisters away, the first prince had seized control of both groups, rebranding them under the civil and military banquet. He held monthly banquets, using rewards to cement his control over the sisters' former power base. This was the origin of the banquet. Su Zhou drove the carriage toward the Manhua River. It was a famous pleasure district for the wealthy and powerful. Painted boats drifted along the river, illuminated by lanterns, creating a scene of decadent, bustling prosperity. A massive pleasure boat docked by the river, drawing carriages filled with elegantly dressed nobles, scholars, and boisterous young martial artists. Tonight was the highly anticipated civil and military banquet, where the first prince would bestow rewards upon the champions of literature and martial arts. I arrived late. Most guests had already boarded when the Su prince's mansion carriage finally pulled up. As the madam of the boat approached, Su Zhou coldly blocked her path and presented the first prince's invitation. The madam's expression stiffened, but she quickly forced a smile and ushered me and my companions aboard. The boat was luxuriously decorated, teeming with servants. The main cabin was already packed with noble guests. Before even entering, I could hear the raucous noise from within. The previous champions were well rewarded. I wonder who will take the title tonight. Don't dream, Third young Master Su. We've all come prepared. The title won't be falling to us. Haha. Witnessing everyone's talent is reward enough for me. True. But tell me, have you heard about what happened at the Su Prince's mansion last night? The rumor that the trash young master returned and slaughtered 3,000 people? Is it true? Impossible. If he'd really harmed Madame Su, the Su family would have retaliated by now. Just street gossip. Perhaps. But I heard the first prince invited that very trash to this banquet. He dares to come? Isn't he afraid of embarrassing the Su Prince's mansion? The crowd laughed, drinking and flirting with their attendants. These arrogant youths felt no hesitation in mocking the god of war Su's only son as a trash. Lingener pouted, her face flushed with anger on my behalf. Shangwan Wanner tugged her sleeve, signaling her to remain silent. I heard every word clearly. I smiled faintly at the insults. As the laughter peaked, I pushed open the cabin door and stepped inside with a calm smile. The door's opening drew everyone's attention. Someone's late. Make him drink 3 penalty cups, someone shouted, turning around. A young man in snow-white robes stood at the entrance, flanked by 2 lovely maids and a stoic guard. Suyu, someone stammered, panic and shock washing over the room. Silence fell instantly. Everyone stared, stunned that the subject of their mockery had suddenly appeared. What? Is the prince not welcome? I asked, my gaze sweeping the room with calm authority. A faint pressure filled the cabin, leaving everyone speechless. It wasn't that they couldn't speak. They were terrified. This was the man rumored to have killed 3,000 people the night before. Regardless of the rumor's truth, my presence was enough to cow the wicked. It's Suyu, many whispered in embarrassment, realizing I must have heard their insults. The timid looked around, fearing the legendary Su sisters might appear to settle scores. For 20 years, anyone who insulted me in the Imperial capital had been made to regret it by the Su sisters. Realizing the sisters weren't there, the cowards breathed a sigh of relief. I watched them with a secret, mocking smile. A few youths friendly to the Su Prince's mansion stood up to break the tension. It's been a while, little prince. You look as heroic as ever. Please, take a seat. We've been waiting for you. Since the 2 Su fairies aren't here to keep you in check, you'll have to drink 3 penalty cups, haha. Youths from the Lu, Li, and Yi families bowed and smiled, welcoming me. These were the Su family's staunch supporters, without whom the prince's mansion would have struggled to survive in the capital. I am late, so I shall accept the penalty, I replied, offering them a friendly nod. I scanned the room, noting the nameplates on the tables arranged by the first prince. I spotted my name on a table in the far corner. I raised an eyebrow. The first prince was clearly testing my bottom line. The guests followed my gaze to the isolated corner. The Yi family young master looked awkward, unsure what to say. My supporters felt indignant. Placing the little prince in the corner was a blatant insult. I remained standing. Humph, does the little prince intend to drink while standing? Sneered second young Master Su. Second brother, you know he's too noble to sit there. If he did, he'd be lowering his status, a man beside him laughed. Noble? Hardly, second young Master Su scoffed, glancing at me. Everyone knows he's a useless trash who can't write or fight. The first prince's invitation was already a gift. He doesn't even deserve to be on this boat, let alone sit at that table. Second brother makes a fair point. Third young Master Su chimed in. They mocked me loudly, clearly showing their disdain. It's the 2 Su family heavenly prides. They were both members of the literary society and former suitors of the eldest Su sister. Someone whispered, wondering why they were targeting me. It was a risky move to offend a prince, even a trash one. Don't you remember? Suyu divorced a woman of the Su family last night. Madame Su is their aunt. They're here for revenge, someone realized. My eyes turned cold as I looked at the brothers, who sat in prominent seats. Despite their lack of talent, they occupied the best spots. They had spacious tables and more beautiful attendants than anyone else. Their aunt was the empress, mother of the first prince. Naturally, they received the best treatment. Why are you staring? Do you disagree? Second young Master Su sneered. If you're not convinced, why not recite a poem or show us a move to prove your worth? Yes, show us a move, and I'll reward you. Third young Master Su goaded. They treated me like a street performer. The crowd erupted in laughter, emboldened by the Su brothers' arrogance. In the imperial capital, one's social standing and connections are dictated by literary talent and martial prowess. I am still viewed as the waste from 20 years ago, with the god of war Su and the Su sisters absent, who remains to protect me. The Su brothers sneered, locking eyes with me, openly mocking me. A mere waste dares to cripple our aunt, they thought, determined to humiliate me before the crowd. How dare you speak to the young prince like that? Nobles from the E and Li families shouted, outraged by the Su brothers' disrespect. These nobles stepped forward to defend me, rebuking the Su brothers for their insolence. I remained calm, watching the commotion. Why all the noise? I asked. The second Su brother retorted, he's a waste. Why shouldn't we say it? Or does he plan to hide behind women forever? The Su family, being royal relatives, felt emboldened to provoke me at the civil and military banquet. Brother, don't forget, when the Su sisters return, they'll be our sisters-in-law. He won't have anywhere to hide then. The third brother laughed. The third brother looked at me with smug satisfaction. The second brother chuckled. The beauties of the literary society will soon be the first prince's concubines. They fantasized lewdly about the Su sisters serving the first prince on his wedding night. The brothers laughed arrogantly, their behavior utterly detestable. They aimed to crush my spirit with their venomous tongues, knowing they couldn't kill me at the banquet. This was their sole objective. If I can't kill you, I'll make you sick, they thought. I smiled coldly. Every year, stray dogs bark at me. It seems I must teach you how to behave. I stepped forward, my expression icy, walking directly toward the brothers. A murderous aura filled the hall, silencing the laughter as the crowd watched in shock. The room fell into a deathly silence. Everyone stared, stunned and disbelieving. That is the aura of internal force, someone whispered in horror. The laughter of the Su brothers' sycophants died out instantly. Only the Su brothers continued to laugh, unaware of the terror gripping the room. The second brother turned to see me approaching, cold as frost. Angry waste? Want to fight? The second brother sneered. He felt safe, knowing private duels were forbidden at the banquet and the first prince would punish any transgressor. Oh, internal force? A miracle. The waste learned martial arts, the third brother mocked. Su-san, deal with him, the third brother commanded, signaling a burly guard. The guard stepped forward, bowing mockingly. Young prince, please. Everyone watch. The young prince is performing. Don't forget to tip, the second brother jeered. He jingled his coin purse, treating me like a circus monkey. The brothers clearly intended to humiliate me. The crowd joined in the mockery, emboldened by the brothers' disdain. They felt foolish for having been intimidated by a waste who had only just begun his martial path. My guard is at the peak of the Ninghan realm. It should be more than enough for you. The second brother sneered. Before he could finish, a sound echoed. Sujio lunged forward, slapping the guard across the face. Thwack! The guard flew backward, vomiting blood, crashing into the mocking nobles. The Su brothers froze, staring in disbelief at Sujio. He had actually attacked, and with such ease. A stray dog trying to bite. Know your place, Sujio said coldly, his voice reeking of battlefield iron. Who is that? The crowd whispered, shocked that Sujio defeated a Ninghan expert in one move. He used no internal force. Who is he? The onlookers wondered. Having served the god of war Su in the northern frontier, Sujio was unknown to these pampered nobles. Though his strength was mysterious, his display of power left the crowd grave. This guard was far beyond the reach of the Su brothers. What are you doing? The second brother shouted, terrified. You dare fight at the banquet? I chuckled. Sujio, throw them into the river. I refused to dirty my own hands with these dogs. Sujio moved like lightning, grabbing both brothers by the throat and silencing their pleas. Ignoring their struggles, he dragged them out of the cabin like dead dogs. Splash, splash, the Su brothers were tossed into the Manhua River. The cabin fell into stunned silence. They realized I was a brute who cared nothing for the banquet's rules. Despite the fear, another challenger stepped forward. You brute. The first prince will punish you for this. The man sneered. It was Zhang Long, 7th on the Imperial capital's heavenly pride list. The crowd watched with malicious glee as Sujio returned. I pointed at Zhang Long, smiling warmly, and took the best seat in the house. The crowd watched, speechless. You dare act so arrogantly? Do you think the first prince won't kill you? Zhang Long demanded. I am Zhang Long, and I, thwack. Suoyang slapped Zhang Long, sending him flying into the wall, unconscious. Young master, the crowd cried out. Zhang Long's guards lunged at Suoyang with murderous intent, shouting, You madman, die. Slap, slap, slap. Suoyang didn't hold back, knocking them all down with single strikes. Despite these experts being in the Baishui realm, Suoyang used no internal force, felling them as easily as a commoner slapping a child. So much chatter. Why not just let me finish my work? Suoyang muttered. Disdainfully, he hauled them away one by one and tossed them into the Manhua River, executing my orders. Anyone else? Step out now, or I'll have to deal with you individually. I sipped my tea, smiling. I was here to embody absolute, unreasonable dominance. Silence fell over the hall. Everyone was truly terrified. They watched Suoyang's efficiency and my calm demeanor with blank, stunned expressions. The entire room was in shock. No one dared move. The consequence was being knocked unconscious and thrown into the river. Suoyang's strength was shocking, but my tyrannical, violent nature was even more terrifying. They weren't here for the banquet. They were here to cause chaos. I warned, if you're convinced, keep your mouth shut. The first prince might not kill me, but I will kill anyone who gossips. My voice echoed through the silent cabin. It was a clear threat. Report me, and you'll suffer, regardless of the consequences for me. Everyone remained silent, none daring to retort. Having witnessed my tyranny, no one wanted to risk their own safety for someone else's business. The noble youths who previously despised me now felt deeply stifled. They were helpless against the man they once considered a waste. It was infuriating. The young master of the Yi family asked, Little prince, what is your guard strength? And why does he love slapping faces? He leaned in, emboldened by his proximity to me. I don't know his strength, I smiled. But I taught him to slap faces. I like hitting people where it hurts. I smiled at the Yi youth, whom I actually liked. The surrounding crowd was speechless. Your hobbies are eye-opening, Brother Su, the young master of the Li family stammered. Combined with 7287, I was nothing like the carefree, reclusive youth I had been half a year ago. I was now a brutal, domineering prince. Many realized that because the old me didn't fight back, they had mocked me freely. But now, even if I were still a waste, my status and aggression forced the capital's heavenly prides to retreat. I was still the prince of the Su prince's estate. Few dared to challenge me directly. They finally realized the massive gap in status. While others were anxious, I remained relaxed, enjoying wine served by a beautiful maid. I was here to test the first prince's limits through sheer force. I had enough hidden cards to intimidate the first prince and probe his bottom line. This was the only way to decipher the first prince's strategy in the capital. While most were cowed, a small group of elite heavenly pride scoffed at me. These were the top talents from the literary society and Jinya, including past winners of the banquet. Suddenly, a hearty laugh echoed from outside. Apologies for the delay. A handsome man in fine robes entered, his eyes cold and calculating despite his smile. The first prince. The crowd rose to bow. I remained seated, sipping tea. How dare you not stand for the first prince? Someone sneered. What? Is the dog barking because its master arrived? I asked, smiling. The man turned red with rage. My brother-in-law is blunt. Forgive him. The first prince laughed, eyes flashing. I raised an eyebrow. Brother-in-law? The first prince took the main seat. After some pleasantries, he asked, Where are the Su brothers? And why are you sitting there, you? The Su brothers were kind enough to yield their seats. Unlike you, they have true integrity. I lied without blinking, showing no respect. My blatant sarcasm made the others twitch. Everyone knew I had thrown the Su brothers into the river to steal their seats. Madman. A noble youth stood up, ready to expose me. The crowd watched, eager for the truth. You're lying. You just. Suoyang, I called out. I'm here, Suoyang replied, staring coldly at the youth. Combined with 7314, the youth froze. Fear gripped him as he remembered those thrown into the river. He regretted standing up. He was facing a man who could kill Baishui experts and a prince who was completely unreasonable. Sweating, he stammered, You. I prompted him, yes? Go on. You were just saying that the Su brothers left due to an emergency. You shouldn't lie to the first prince. The crowd was stunned. Was this the same man who stood up with such righteous indignation? He had folded instantly. Uffed. Huh. The youth struggled to contain his laughter. It was the first time they'd seen such a coward among the capital's elite. Yet, most understood, no one wanted to cross me. Combined with 7327, the noble youth offered a pathetic, fawning smile to me. Better to drink than be knocked out by Zhou and tossed into the river. The nobleman thought, terrified. Zhou, I spoke calmly. The nobleman panicked, fearing I would summon my guard to silence him. He trembled, desperate to beg for mercy. I am here, Zhou replied, standing ready. I smiled and poured a cup of sake. Give this to him. I like honest men. Zhou handed the cup to the nobleman. Drink it. It's a reward from the young master. The nobleman sighed in relief and downed the drink. The first prince interjected, feigning curiosity. And where is young Master Zhang? Can you enlighten me? He stared at the nobleman, who choked on his wine. Young Master Zhang? The nobleman looked at me, eyes pleading for help. He regretted being the first to speak up. He realized he was just a pawn in the first prince's scheme against me. He was now trapped in an impossible situation. Speak the truth. I won't blame you. The first prince pressed, his eyes sharp. The first prince knew full well that I had thrown Zhang Long and the Su brothers into the river. His own guards had fished them out. However, he wasn't ready to openly confront me yet. With the old emperor still alive, the first prince couldn't afford to destabilize the capital before securing the throne. The nobleman wanted to blurt out that Zhang Long was in the river, but he feared Zhou's wrath. He remained silent, terrified of becoming the next victim. Speak, the first prince commanded. The nobleman stammered. Your Highness, young Master Zhang left because he admired the young prince's character and voluntarily yielded his seat. The crowd stared in disbelief. Zhang Long admiring me. The lie was absurd. Uffed. Ha ha. I spat out my wine laughing. Young master, slow down. Lingener whispered, wiping my mouth. Shangwan Wanner refilled my cup. I gave the nobleman a thumbs up. I like you. Heh. The nobleman forced a smile. Is that so? The first prince asked. Yes. Young Master Zhang left out of pure respect, the nobleman insisted. The Yi family young master whispered to me. He's a real talent. The crowd shifted away from the nobleman, embarrassed by his blatant lie. He was treating everyone like fools. To everyone's shock, the first prince nodded. I see. I didn't know, my dear, you had such influence. I'm pleased. The crowd was baffled. The first prince and the Su prince's estate were known rivals. Why was the first prince siding with me? Your Highness, you aren't part of the Su family yet. Don't call me you so familiarly, I drawled. The atmosphere turned icy. My remark was a direct jab at the first prince's intent to marry the Su sisters. The crowd held their breath, waiting for the first prince's reaction. The first prince stared at me, his expression unreadable. Do you think I'm wrong? I asked. I raised my glass, my attitude dismissive. We are rivals, why the pretense? The first prince smiled thinly. I haven't married your sisters yet, so I shall refrain from such intimacy. The first prince waved his hand to start the banquet, dismissing me as a reckless fool. He thought, I have 1,000 excuses to kill you, but I'll make you suffer for this insolence later. The first prince drank, his eyes filled with hidden malice. I had successfully lowered the first prince's guard by acting arrogant and unreasonable. Making an enemy underestimate you is the best strategy. The crowd breathed a sigh of relief as the banquet officially began. A black-robed guard stepped forward. The banquet follows tradition, literary first, martial second. The rules remain. Win by making everyone else concede, and the title is yours. The prizes, the Dan Mo Ching stationery and 1,000,000 gold coins for the literary winner, a Ranchin-grade armor set, and 10 monster crystal cores for the martial winner. The crowd erupted. Dan Mo Ching, one of the 4 treasures of the empire, worth tens of millions. Scholars were beside themselves with excitement. It was a priceless antique with legendary properties. It couldn't be bought with money alone. Ranchin-grade gear and cores. The martial artists were equally electrified. Such gear could allow a first-tier Ranchin martial artist to challenge a 5th-tier expert. Even wealthy nobles struggled to forge such equipment. The cost was astronomical. The total prize value exceeded 50 million gold coins. The crowd was stunned by the first prince's immense wealth and generosity. Gold coins were the only universal currency across the Four Directions continent. Even dukes couldn't earn 10 million in a year of corruption. The entire empire's annual tax revenue was only a few hundred million. The first prince was spending a fortune tonight. He's really breaking the bank, I muttered, smirking. You'll do anything to win over these young talents who once followed my sisters, I thought. The black-robed guard raised a hand. Everyone, I haven't finished yet. The noise died down as everyone turned their attention to the black-robed guard. Could there be more rewards? The first prince announced that the winners of both the civil and military competitions would receive an even more extravagant prize. The black-robed guard smirked, his voice steady. The crowd erupted in excitement, clamoring to know what it was. The first prince sighed, looking pained as he nodded, signaling the guard to reveal the prize. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. If the first prince could part with hundreds of millions of gold coins without blinking, what could possibly make him look so reluctant? The black-robed guard clapped his hands and commanded, "Bring them out." The crowd craned their necks in anticipation. 10 young women emerged from behind a screen, heads bowed in shy, delicate grace. They possessed exquisite features, porcelain skin, and alluring, watery eyes. Dressed in loose, translucent pink robes that revealed glimpses of fair arms, they appeared both seductive and captivating. I and the others quickly realized the truth. Fox women. From the Orc Empire. The women had pointed, furry ears twitching atop their heads. Fox women are a unique race within the Orc Empire, a type of half-orc. Half-orcs retain human bodies while possessing specific animalistic traits. Unlike other half-orcs who might have tails, animal limbs, or beast heads, fox women only possess animal ears, making their transformation subtle. Naturally seductive and slender, they are highly sought after as martial Dao cauldrons to assist men in their cultivation. Their adorable, furry ears make them prized possessions in human empires. Regardless of their popularity, they remain slaves. Just as the Orc Empire captures human slaves, the Tian Empire keeps orc slaves. However, the Tian Empire is weaker. Even God of War Zhou is limited to defensive tactics in the northern frontier against the orcs. Consequently, orc slaves are rare, and fox women are exceptionally so. The first prince's offering of 10 virgin fox women was a massive display of wealth. The crowd stared, salivating. Some compared them to my attendants, finding these fox women more practical in quantity. Though not as beautiful as my companions, the sheer number and their cultivation benefits made them highly desirable. The men present were ignited with competitive fire, eager to win the civil and military titles. Even the top heavenly pride of the Imperial capital were tempted. The first prince smiled, his expectations met. The winners would undoubtedly be the leaders of the younger generation. By controlling the winners, he could indirectly command all the other heavenly pride. That was the first prince's true goal. Someone asked, "Your Highness, while these fox women are rare, are they truly worth more than the standard rewards?" The question was posed with a flattering tone. Indeed, the standard rewards were worth hundreds of millions. 10 fox women seemed insignificant in comparison. The black-robed guard laughed and pointed to the center. "Look at what she is holding." The central fox woman held a small, snow-white fox, curled up and sleeping soundly. "Just a snow fox?" some muttered in disappointment. I shook my head, telling Lingener, "That is a rare and miraculous breed." I wondered why the first prince would part with such a treasure. A snow fox? Umph. The guard grabbed the fox by the neck, lifting it for all to see. "Look closely," he shouted. The fox hung limply. Suddenly, 9 fluffy tails unfurled like a silver waterfall, stunning the crowd. "Hey, 9-tailed spirit fox," someone gasped. The room fell into shocked silence. It was a cub of the fox race's supreme spirit beast. Legend says its 9 tails control elements like lightning, fire, and wind, and possess 9 souls that can regenerate. Most importantly, it can shape-shift into any race. For martial artists, its presence increases cultivation speed and mental clarity 9-fold. It is a supreme beast, with a cub's combat power rivaling a legendary realm expert. History records only one such beast appearing 30,000 years ago, helping its owner dominate the continent for a millennium. That single record places the nine-tailed spirit fox in the top 3 of all demonic beasts. No one had seen one since. The crowd held their breath, mesmerized by the small creature. The guard explained that the first prince found it 15 years ago, but it had been comatose with a head injury ever since. No doctor or scholar could confirm its identity. He pointed to a black scab inside the fox's ear. Many say it's just a mutated snow fox. It never provided the ninefold cultivation boost. The guard admitted, there are many fakes, and the prince isn't sure if it's real, so he's offering it as a prize. The crowd realized it was likely a fake. If it were real, the first prince wouldn't give it away. He had clearly exhausted all options over 15 years. I sipped my tea, expressionless. The first prince wouldn't discard it unless he had lost hope. I suspected the prince hoped one of the heavenly pride could heal it. If it woke up and proved real, the prince would surely find a way to reclaim it. Cunning old fox, I thought, smirking. The first prince smiled, saying, it may be a fake, or perhaps I simply lack the fate to awaken it. The opportunity is yours to seize. The crowd agreed. Perhaps it was simply fate that the prince could not claim the beast. The crowd was stirred by the first prince's words, finding renewed hope for the snow fox. The first prince is absolutely right, they echoed. Lan Xingyi stood, fanning himself with an arrogant smile. I, Lan Xingyi, shall take the lead in the literary competition and offer a performance for all. Excellent. I declare the literary competition open. Let wine fuel the spirit, and keep the contest friendly, the first prince announced. To the prince, the crowd cheered, raising their cups in unison. I sipped my wine lazily, watching the scholars trade verses with detached indifference. Glancing at the snow fox, I mentally queried, System, is this really a nine-tailed spirit fox? Beep. A transparent wave of energy swept over the unconscious fox, unnoticed by the crowd. Host, according to the records of the Four Directions continent, this is indeed what humans here call a nine-tailed spirit fox. I raised an eyebrow, keeping my expression neutral. It is a rare branch of snow fox. In your previous world's mythology, it corresponds to Daji, Tamamonome, and the nine-tailed beast from the Naruto plain. I was stunned. These were all legendary, world-shaking entities. Are you certain it's Daji? I asked. No, it is a cub of that same species, possessing equal potential but distinct from those specific historical figures. The system clarified. It is a wounded cub. Its innate potential is currently suppressed by its injuries, keeping it in a comatose state. Can you heal it? I asked. Yes, if you use public support energy to buy pills from the Myriad Realms Mall. However, its foundation is damaged, requiring a steady supply of pills to restore its full potential. The system remained confident. The mall held everything for a price. I suggest you acquire this cub. It will significantly accelerate your cultivation speed. The system viewed the fox merely as a tool for my growth, ignoring its future combat prowess. The system's standards were simply too high to care about a nine-tailed fox's power. I see. Amused, my interest piqued. I wondered if this legendary creature would eventually transform into a legendary beauty. As I pondered, the literary competition neared its end. The contest focused on couplets, a field where humans of the Four Directions continent excelled. Lan Xingyi remained in the center, having already defeated dozens of challengers. Does anyone else wish to offer instruction? Lan Xingyi asked, his tone dripping with arrogance. Scholars sighed, admitting that without Miss Huyin, no one could best him. You flatter us, young Master Lan. We have only learned from you today. Many bowed, conceding defeat. Nearby martial artists grumbled, hurry up. We have a real fight to get to. Lan Xingyi smiled, basking in the adoration. Invited by the first prince, Lan Xingyi was the preordained winner of the literary title. As the second-ranked talent in the Imperial capital and son of the Grand Academician, challenging him was seen as an act of self-humiliation. The Grand Academician was the Empire's most learned man. His influence was immense. Lan Xingyi was the heir to that legacy and the future Grand Academician. The title is already his. His talent is heaven-defying. Even the Grand Academician wasn't this gifted in his youth. Even past winners dared not challenge him. Lan Xingyi's goal was to pledge his allegiance to the first prince. He had a mission to fulfill for his new master. Since no one else will step up, I shall choose an opponent to conclude this, Lan Xingyi said. The rules dictated that the winner could designate a final challenger. Defeating them would secure the title. Lan Xingyi scanned the room, his eyes landing on me, as I was lounging in Shangwan Wanner's arms. Enjoying the wine and company, little prince? I prefer a life of leisure over these petty squabbles, I replied. Lan Xingyi smirked. Interested in a round, then? Lan Xingyi viewed me as a mere plaything, not a serious rival. He only bothered because the first prince had ordered him to humiliate me. Lan Xingyi despised me as a good-for-nothing wastrel. A round? I'd hate to be responsible if I accidentally hurt you, I teased. Ling An'er and Shangwan Wanner blushed, recalling my earlier suggestive remarks. Lan Xingyi, oblivious to the context, looked at me with disdain. If the little prince feels unlearned, we can skip it, Lan Xingyi sneered. The crowd sensed the rising tension. Lan Xingyi continued, I wouldn't want to force you, even if it means forfeiting the title. He maintained a facade of a refined, considerate gentleman. Enough, the first prince interrupted, his face darkening. The purpose of this banquet is to cultivate talent. The rules must be upheld. The first prince's voice was cold and absolute. It is my fault for admiring the prince and acting out of turn. I deserve punishment for putting the prince in such an awkward position, Lan Xingyi apologized. Lan Xingyi knelt before the first prince, putting on a show of repentance. I sneered inwardly at Lan Xingyi's pretentious, overly formal speech. I raised an eyebrow, amused by the performance. The crowd looked at me with pity and disdain, expecting me to be humiliated. They whispered that since I was a waste, I might as well compete, as no one expected me to win anyway. Ahem, get up, the first prince said. The first prince smiled warmly at me, urging me to compete against Lan Xingyi, to learn something and satisfy my sister's expectations. The first prince's tone was that of a caring older brother, making the crowd envy my good fortune. With talented sisters and a tolerant first prince, I seemed to live in a honey pot. Many onlookers felt jealous of the waste prince. Oh, the first prince thinks I should compete. My smile turned cold. The first prince was skillfully using these words to trample my reputation just as I was starting to regain influence. The implication was clear. I was so incompetent that even a match with Lan Xingyi would be an educational opportunity. If I were branded a failure again, the Su prince's estate would lose all hope of resurgence. Yet, the crowd saw nothing wrong with the first prince's advice. The first prince pressed further, claiming that my refusal would hinder Lan Xingyi's future as a scholar. His words were dripping with mockery that only I could fully grasp. Even the Yi family young master urged me to just go through the motions to save face. Others were less polite, mocking me for being limp compared to my guards and urging me to compete. Some laughed, noting that the prince had no chance of winning anyway. They praised Lan Xingyi as the second-best talent in the capital, second only to Miss Huyen. They goaded me to go up and seek guidance from a true talent. They warned me not to cry if I lost, as this wasn't the Su prince's estate where my sisters could protect me. The crowd reminded me that my sisters weren't here to coddle me. Laughter and mocking glares filled the room. With the first prince backing them, they were unafraid of me and eager to see me humiliated. Fine. I realized they were forcing me into a corner, assuming I would lose. I smiled coldly. I caught the subtle exchange of glances between Lan Xingyi and the first prince. They were conspiring against me. I decided I would take the nine-tailed spirit fox cub. I wouldn't let this provocation slide. I couldn't use force, so I would crush them with the vast literary heritage of China. I commanded the system to exchange for the complete collection of Chinese couplets. The system confirmed the exchange for a mere 10 points of public support energy. I scanned the massive database in my mind, ready to dismantle my opponents. I was a transmigrator with a cheat code. I loved crushing arrogant, heavenly prides. Please, Prince, grant me your instruction, Lan Xingyi said with a fake smile. The first prince's goal was to break my spirit and cement my reputation as a failure. I sipped my wine, remarking that competing against someone like Lan Xingyi was beneath my status. Lan Xingyi's expression darkened as he accused me of looking down on the Grand Academician's estate. The Grand Academician's estate held immense prestige, untouchable by imperial power struggles. Not at all. I'm just feeling tired, I replied. I suggested my maid, Shangwan Wanner, compete in my stead, claiming she had learned enough for me to suffice. I gestured for Shangwan Wanner to stand. Lan Xingyi was insulted. Having a maid compete was a direct affront to his dignity. Master, Shangwan Wanner whispered nervously that she excelled in poetry, not couplets. Don't worry, I'll teach you a few lines, I whispered back. I leaned in, whispering instructions into her ear. The crowd watched, eyes lighting up at the prospect of my cowardice. They sneered at my decision to hide behind a maid. Lan Xingyi warned that if she lost, I couldn't go back on my word. Lan Xingyi smiled insincerely. He doubted a few last-minute tips could save a waste like me. I am a man of my word, unlike some, I retorted sharply. Lan Xingyi gritted his teeth and invited the girl to begin. Shangwan Wanner walked to the center of the stage, encouraged by me. She spoke softly, stating that her master didn't need to dirty his hands dealing with barking dogs, so she would handle the pests for him. She bowed gracefully, declaring she was there to sweep away the rabble. The room fell into stunned silence. Her words were a direct, insult-free slap to the faces of Lan Xingyi and the first prince. Lan Xingyi was furious but couldn't lash out without ruining his gentlemanly image. Both Lan Xingyi and the first prince were visibly displeased. Lan Xingyi demanded to know who she called a rabble, but I coolly replied that if the shoe fits, wear it. My calm retort forced Lan Xingyi to swallow his rage. Lan Xingyi forced a smile, offering to let the girl choose the rules of the competition. I watched, amused by Lan Xingyi's desperate attempt to maintain his composure. I relaxed, leaning back into Ling and Nur's embrace. Ling and Nur asked if I was truly confident, to which I replied with a smile, "Have you ever seen me lose?" Ling and Nur gazed at me with adoring eyes, gently massaging my head. She was deeply enamored with every facet of me, my confidence, my elegance, and even my overbearing arrogance. Regardless of my plans, Ling and Nur offered her unconditional support and trust. Per my master's rules, he disdains responding to provocations from the unworthy. I shall pose 3 riddles. If young Master Lan answers them, you win. If not, my master triumphs. Shangwan Wanner's voice remained soft and melodious, making it impossible for anyone to speak harshly to her. I knew nothing of complex couplets, having only heard simple, rustic rhymes in my past. I refused to let Lan Xingyi take the initiative. By setting the terms first, I would maintain the psychological upper hand, the true way of a king. Please, miss, I am all ears, Lan Xingyi replied. Lan Xingyi smiled confidently, declaring that no couplet in the world could stump him. He sneered at me, certain that a known wastrel could never pose a challenge. Turning his gaze to Shangwan Wanner, he was instantly captivated by her beauty. If the timing were different, he would have done anything to win her heart. Proceed, then, he said. Shangwan Wanner bowed gracefully and recited. Layer upon layer, the mountains are green, green mountains, layer upon layer. Her voice echoed through the hall. A repetitive character couplet? Child's play, Lan Xingyi thought. Laughing, he opened his fan and pondered. In that case, I shall respond with. He suddenly fell silent, his brow furrowing in confusion. He had expected a masterpiece, yet this was merely a simple repetitive structure. Haha, for a prince, even a simple repetitive couplet is quite an achievement, someone mocked. It's too easy. Young Master Lan, don't hold back, give the second half. Don't let the beauty distract you from your honor. Hurry up. The scholars in the hall laughed, their voices dripping with disdain. Repetitive couplets were standard exercises for beginners. With basic rhyming rules, they were usually trivial to solve. Lan Xingyi suddenly shouted, "Silence!" The crowd froze, looking at him. He paced back and forth, tapping his fan against his palm, his expression growing increasingly grave. The scholars were stunned. The great talent Lan Xingyi was actually stumped. A knowledgeable guest muttered, "Layer upon layer, green mountains." No, that's not it either. Other self-proclaimed scholars began to frown, attempting to deconstruct the line. The deeper they analyzed it, the more they realized its complexity. It wasn't a simple repetitive couplet, but a shifting, layered puzzle with no clear rhyme scheme. A hasty answer would be an admission of defeat. These 12 characters contained multiple layers of meaning that defied a simple response. The hall fell into a deathly silence as the scholars struggled. An instant's sticks time passed. Sweat beaded on Lan Xingyi's forehead. He realized the brilliance of the line and found it impossible to solve. He couldn't believe the notorious wastrel I could conceive such a classic. Brother Lon, it's been an incense sticks time. Shall we continue the martial portion? I asked lazily. This? Lon Chingy stammered. Give me a moment longer. Another incense stick burned away. The first prince stood up, glaring at Lon Chingy. Chingy, answer it. Lon Chingy bowed bitterly. I cannot find a suitable response. He couldn't delay any longer. He was truly defeated. The other talents in the room were equally silent, heads bowed in frustration. Their earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by shock at the difficulty of the couplet. The first prince sat down, his face dark with fury. Lon Chingy felt a mix of panic and humiliation. Turning to me, he sneered, I suspect you didn't write this yourself, did you? Indeed, I thought of it in my spare time to test her. I lied without blinking. Combined with 7628. Liar. A wastrel like you couldn't possibly conceive such a profound line. You must have stolen it from a master. The crowd joined in, accusing me of plagiarism, unable to accept that a wastrel could outshine them. Even the first prince turned to me, demanding, Brother you, is this truly your own work? Oh, desperate now that you can't answer? I chuckled. If you're so capable, give us the second half. Lon Chingy retorted. He insisted it was stolen to save face. The scholars jeered, calling me a thief. Shangwan Wanner frowned, disgusted by the scholars' ugly behavior and their petty jealousy. They were truly shameless. It's just a simple repetitive couplet. Wanner, tell the great talent the answer I gave you. I sipped my wine, looking bored. My master already provided the answer. If I speak it, young Master Lon loses, Wanner said softly. Combined with 7640. A simple couplet? Let's hear it. If you can answer, I admit defeat. Lon Chingy roared. Combined with 7642, the scholars watched with mocking smiles, eager to see me humiliate myself with a crude, beginner-level response. They anticipated a pathetic answer that would prove their theory of my incompetence. They waited, ready to tear my response apart. Lon Chingy even prepared a lecture to deliver once I failed. He felt a surge of excitement at the prospect of crushing me. Then I shall speak. Shangwan Wanner smiled and recited, winding and twisting, the clear water flows. Water clear, winding and twisting. Ha. I knew it would be crude, and Lon Chingy's laughter died instantly. His face turned pale as the scholars realized the brilliance of the response. The hall fell into stunned silence. The mockery vanished, replaced by absolute shock. My heavens, the scholars were left speechless, paralyzed by the perfection of the couplet. Perfectly structured and profound. A masterpiece, scholars gasped in shock. Lon Chingy turned deathly pale, swaying as he stared at me in disbelief. You lost, Master Lon. I raised my glass, downed it, and laughed. I thank Master Lon in advance for the title of literary champion. The remark stung Lon Chingy. No, impossible, Lon roared, eyes bloodshot. You must have stolen these couplets. A good-for-nothing like you couldn't possibly compose such brilliance. I don't believe it. I don't accept this. I haven't lost. Lon gripped his fan until his knuckles turned white, veins bulging. Best of three. I don't believe you have another one. Recalling his earlier mockery of me, Lon felt as if he'd been slapped across the face. He had to win. He was the true literary champion of the Imperial capital. Brother you, the first prince interjected. Lon is willing to continue. Why not grant him another round? The first prince added. I am also curious to see what else you can come up with. Though framed as mediation, the prince was clearly favoring Lon. The prince could not allow me, a rival he despised, to walk away with the prize. It was a public humiliation. He would not permit it. I raised an eyebrow, smiling brightly. Asterisk, one slap wasn't enough? You want the other cheek hit too? Asterisk, I thought. Fine. Let's play a little longer, I chuckled. I never tired of slapping the faces of arrogant nobles. Good. Lon took a deep breath. It's my turn to set the challenge. Lon steeled himself, determined to craft a riddle so difficult it would stump me. A defeated opponent wants to make a fool of himself again. I scoffed, setting my glass down. Stay put. I set the couplets. You only answer. The command was overbearing. Lon trembled with rage. Fine. I'm listening. As the loser, he had no room to negotiate. Wanner, give him the line, I said, lounging comfortably. Shangwan Wanner bowed gracefully. A simple line my young master once used to test me. If you cannot answer, Master Lon, you have truly lost. Hurry up, Lon snapped. He was desperate to win and humiliate me in return. Warner whispered. The first line is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lon was stunned. What kind of line is that? He thought. Asterisk 8, 9, 10? That doesn't fit the structure. Asterisk Land's confidence crumbled. The first prince and the surrounding guests were equally bewildered. Is this a joke? Are you insulting us? The scholars stood up, glaring at me. They assumed I was mocking them with nonsense. Can't answer. I swirled my wine, eyes glinting with amusement. Lon roared. I respect your status, but this is an insult. Do you think I'm illiterate? Actually, yes. I am insulting your lack of learning. I grinned. That is my line. What is your response? You. Lon was so angry he nearly vomited blood. That's not a real line. Give me the second line. Shamelessness is truly invincible, I sighed. Warner, tell him. My sharp tongue left Land's face black with rage. Warner giggled behind her hand. The second line is filial piety, fraternal duty, loyalty, trust, propriety, righteousness, integrity. Lon sneered. No structure, no meaning. You missed 8, and shame. This is garbage. He mocked me, convinced he had exposed my incompetence. Lon felt a surge of triumphant excitement. Then, someone whispered, wait. A guest realized the truth and warned Lon. Brother Lon, there is a hidden meaning. Lon froze, his face draining of color. The E family young master gasped. The first line omits 8, ba. The second omits shame, chi. Together, it spells Wangba Wuchi, shameless turtle. It was a vicious insult. Lon had been walking right into it. Lon trembled, eyes wide with disbelief. His fan clattered to the floor. He was consumed by shame and despair. He hadn't just failed to answer. He had been insulted to his face. Best of 3, and you still lost, I said calmly. Lon stared at me, breathing heavily, fists clenched. The humiliation was overwhelming. A noble of the Grand Academician's estate had lost to the capital's most famous waste. Just a game, don't be so angry, I teased. Land's face flushed purple. He let out a spray of blood and collapsed to the floor. The hall fell silent. The second-ranked scholar of the capital had been literally angered into a faint. Chaos erupted as people rushed to help the unconscious Lon. The first prince sat with a dark, unreadable expression. The 10 fox women watched me with newfound curiosity. Why is such a talented man called a waste? They wondered. I lounged in Linganer's arms. I told you not to play with me. Look what happened. The crowd stiffened at my words. The E and Li young masters gave me a thumbs up. Brother, you're incredible. How did you hide such talent all this time? Poor Lon Qingyi. He'll never recover from this. The crowd watched with pity as attendants scrambled to carry away the unconscious Lon Qingyi. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have won the title of civil leader and gained 5,000 public support energy. I wasn't surprised, merely swirling my wine glass with a faint smile. The system issued no mandatory tasks, but I realized that to maximize rewards, I had to actively uncover its hidden rules. The Grand Lord system operated by analyzing my actions and their outcomes, automatically granting rewards based on the situation. These implicit tasks required my initiative, though I found the current rewards somewhat meager. Is it because I let Shangwan Warner compete in my place? I mused, rubbing my chin. If the system rewarded me for the civil title, what happens if I take the martial title? I whispered to myself, my eyes glinting with ambition. I valued the system's rewards far more than the first prince's prizes. Even a few thousand public support energy felt worth more than millions of gold coins. Your talent surprises me, brother you. I am both delighted and relieved you defeated Lon Qingyi, the first prince announced, quieting the room. I hereby declare Suoyang the winner of the civil and military banquet's civil title. There were no cheers. The nobles turned to stare at me. The scholars looked at me with a mix of admiration, scorn, and hatred, while the martial artists remained indifferent, dismissing me entirely. Regardless, no one had expected the waste of the imperial capital to claim the civil title. It was a stinging insult to the capital's elite scholars. Bring the rewards, the first prince commanded. Yes, a guard replied. A black-robed guard returned with the Dan Mo Ching stationery set and a chest of gold coins. "These are for you, young prince." The guard gestured for the items to be placed before me, his expression arrogant and mocking. I waved a hand lazily. "Wanner, these are yours." "Thank you, my lord." Shangwan Wanner beamed, her smile radiant and captivating. The scholars watched in jealous rage as I tossed away priceless treasures and a fortune on a mere maid, labeling me a debauched spendthrift. I scoffed inwardly. They were just bitter they didn't have a beauty like Wanner to spoil. As the civil title holder, I had every right to dispose of my rewards as I pleased. The first prince suppressed his anger and announced, "I declare the martial competition open. The rules remain the same. No restrictions, no conditions. The last one standing wins the martial title." The black-robed guard added, "All martial artists may participate, but do not kill. Do not let a friendly spar end in tragedy. Let wine fuel your spirit." The first prince raised his glass. "Gentlemen, show us the martial prowess of our capital." The martial artists roared in excitement, eager to begin. As they prepared to fight, my lazy voice cut through. "I'm interested too. If the prince doesn't mind, I'd like to join." The crowd froze, faces twitching in disbelief. The first prince's expression stiffened. "Brother, using a maid for the civil contest was an exception. You aren't planning to have a guard fight for you, are you?" The crowd held their breath, fearing the prospect of Zhou, whose strength was terrifying. Zhou had defeated Zhong Long, ranked 7th on the martial leaderboard, with a single slap. "No," the crowd shouted. "We won't allow it. A guard has no right to compete. If you want to fight, do it yourself. Don't hide behind others." They glared at me, filled with hostility and wariness. They had been caught off guard during the civil contest. They wouldn't let me cheat my way through the martial one. "Who said I was using Zhou?" I laughed. "You all look terrified." I stood up, swaying slightly as if drunk, clutching my wine flask. I appeared carefree and languid. I walked onto the stage, looking around with a smile. "I will face the capital's warriors myself." My voice was soft, yet carried an overwhelming, arrogant confidence that stunned the room. I, dressed in white with a sword at my waist, stood ready to challenge them all. It was a blatant provocation against the first prince's elite. Everyone stared in shock. Was this really the waste of the Su prince's estate? Though they had seen me use internal chi against the Su family, no one believed I had real strength. A man who had been a waste for 20 years couldn't possibly have transformed overnight. "Brother, are you certain?" The first prince was stunned. "You've never practiced martial arts. If you get hurt, how will I explain it to your sister?" The first prince feigned concern, which only disgusted me. "It's just a spar," I replied with a smile. The first prince sighed, then signaled his men with a subtle glance. "If you die in the ring, Su Long cannot blame me," he thought with a cold smirk. "Humph, just a spar?" A burly man in fine robes stepped forward. "Young prince, don't blame me for being blunt, but a martial waste like you has no business here." That's Chao Haiqing, 37th on the martial leaderboard, a peak Ninghun realm expert at 20. "His fist techniques are the best in the capital," the crowd whispered in awe. They were surprised that a talent like Chao would bother targeting me. Usually, such elites wouldn't waste time on a debauched noble. Lower-ranked fighters sighed, realizing their chances of winning were gone. With thousands of elites in the capital, only the top 100 were truly recognized. Chao Haiqing was clearly a cut above the rest. "Why so nervous? Afraid I'll take the title?" I teased, taking a sip of wine. Chao laughed as if he'd heard a joke. "Don't blame me if you get hurt and start crying, young prince." "Exactly. We aren't as weak as those scholars. Go home and hide in your bed." The martial artists at the civil and military banquet roared with laughter. In their world, status and wealth meant nothing. Only absolute martial power commanded respect. They scoffed at my noble title. To them, the path of martial Dao demanded unyielding dominance, not the protection of a status they deemed irrelevant. Because I was still viewed as a trash, the martial artists looked down upon me with deep-seated contempt. "Begin," the black-robed guard commanded. The crowd jeered, urging Chao Haiqing to sever my arm, claiming the first prince would shield them from any consequences. They mocked me, telling me to kneel and beg for mercy. The first prince's faction fueled the chaos, maliciously inciting the crowd to target me. "Humph," Chao Haiqing sneered. sliding a pair of black iron tiger claws over his knuckles. "Little prince, come. I'll let you strike first so you don't collapse before I even move." Chao Haiqing grinned cruelly, reminding me that the crowd wanted my arms severed and hoping I wouldn't cry out in pain. Facing the wave of mockery, I smiled brilliantly. "I enjoy your arrogance. I only hope you have the courage to keep it up." "Attack me," Chao Haiqing barked, showing no respect. Chao Haiqing roared, stomping forward to crush me with his aura. Swish, I tapped my Xinhuang precious sword. A streak of light, swift as lightning, lashed out toward Chao Haiqing's face. It was impossibly fast. Chao Haiqing was stunned, his mind unable to process the strike before it hit. Smack! The scabbard struck Chao Haiqing's cheek. Ah! Chao Haiqing stumbled back, spitting out teeth and blood. He stood dazed while I remained perfectly still, calmly sipping from my wine flask. Chao Haiqing was livid. I hadn't even drawn my blade. I had used the scabbard. The realization that he had been humiliated made Chao Haiqing's face burn with shame. "You." Furious that he, a top 50 heavenly pride on the martial leaderboard, couldn't force me to take him seriously, he seethed. "Chao Haiqing, get him. Don't let a trash prince beat you," the crowd shouted. Because the strike was too fast for many to see, the crowd's jeers only fueled Chao Haiqing's rage. "Roar! You little beast, I'll kill you." Chao Haiqing charged, his face twisted in a mask of fury. He convinced himself I had only landed the hit through a sneak attack and that a direct confrontation would break me. "Die!" Chao Haiqing grinned as he lunged, while I remained motionless. Internal force surged around Chao Haiqing's fists. His iron fists whistled through the air with lethal intent. My eyes turned cold. With a flick of my wrist, the Xinhuang precious sword unsheathed with a sharp clink, unleashing a violent storm of light. I showed no mercy to those who sought my life. My blade shattered Chao Haiqing's internal force like rain. Poochie! The sound of steel meeting flesh was followed by a blood-curdling scream. Chao Haiqing's hands were severed at the wrists, falling to the ground with a thud. Silence fell over the hall. Everyone was stunned. The diamond fist, Chao Haiqing, whose hands were said to be as hard as iron, had been crippled in an instant. My hands. Ah! Chao Haiqing collapsed in agony, sweating profusely, unable to even reach for his severed limbs. "You shouldn't have harbored killing intent toward me. Losing your claws is a light punishment." My cold voice silenced Chao Haiqing's wails, leaving him broken on the floor. Chao Haiqing stared up at me in despair. I looked down, my expression calm. Sparing Chao Haiqing's life was the extent of my mercy. For Chao Haiqing, this was worse than death. His martial Dao career was over. He realized his future was gone, and the memory of his earlier arrogance tasted like bitter gall. Fear and regret consumed him. Had he not been so arrogant or eager to please the first prince, he wouldn't have met this fate. But life offered no what-ifs. "Young master." Chao family servants rushed in, terrified to meet my gaze. They carried the catatonic Chao Haiqing away. Everyone knew the rules. In a martial duel, being crippled was a risk one took. If you feared death or injury, don't enter the ring. The crowd finally snapped out of their shock, gasping. One strike. He must be in the Baishui realm. They couldn't believe someone who had only recently started martial Dao could possess such power. It was truly unbelievable. Many remained frozen, unable to process the scene. The swiftness of my victory was deeply unsettling. The first prince's faction looked grim, while the nobles supporting the Su prince's estate were ecstatic. I kept my sword drawn, ready for the next challenger. "Who's next? You're all going to lose anyway, so come together. I don't have time to waste." The first prince, his face dark, signaled his men to act. Arrogant, Rong Yunjia, a young noble, stepped forward, sneering. "Do you think defeating Chao Haiqing makes you invincible? The title of martial leader isn't so easily won. You are vicious, crippling a man's future. I, Rong Yunjia, have seen your true, sinister nature." The crowd gasped. The shadowless sword, Rong Yunjia, 8th on the martial leaderboard, Baishui realm 3rd stage. The little prince is in trouble. The intensity of this banquet far exceeded any in the past. "Are you blind? He tried to kill me first." I retorted coldly. I was disgusted by their hypocrisy. They ignored Chao Haiqing's clear intent to murder me. "Umph. Shameless wretch. How dare you argue?" Rong Yunjia sneered, brandishing his sword. Come, let me see if you truly possess the strength of the Baishui realm. Let me teach you how to wield a sword. Swish. Rong Yunja lunged, a streak of cyan light aimed directly at my throat. A vicious, lethal strike. Clearly another of the first prince's pawns. My eyes turned icy. I found the man's arrogance laughable. I raised my hand, my movements elegant and slow compared to Rong's rapid strikes, guiding the true Emperor's sword in a graceful arc swish. The true Emperor's sword arrived first, clashing tip to tip. Boom! It erupted with golden light, surging with internal force. Asterisk crack. Crack. Asterisk the true Emperor's sword shattered Rong's internal force and pulverized his blade inch by inch. It was unstoppable. Rong Yunja paled, shocked by my power. He tried to retreat, but it was too late. Splice. The true Emperor's sword smashed the broken blade and coiled around Rong's sword hand like a viper. Asterisk swish. Splice. Asterisk. Rong's wrist was severed, his hand falling to the ground. My hand. Rong screamed, clutching his bloody stump as his sword clattered away. He suffered the same fate as Chao Haiqing, crippled and miserable. You aren't fit to teach me, I said. I stood tall, my voice cold and domineering. Get out. Infused with internal force and the mysteries of Qin Dao, my shout blasted Rong Yunja backward. Rong vomited blood, crashing through the cabin door and into the Manhua River. The Rong family servants scrambled to fish him out. The crowd fell into a stunned, horrified silence. I had defeated the 8th-ranked martial artist with a single strike. 2 consecutive victories, both against top-tier opponents. Despite my short time in the martial Dao, my performance was shockingly brilliant. I said you'd both lose. Why are you still stalling? I scanned the crowd. The repeated murder attempts fueled my rage. The first prince was too cowardly to act himself, sending others to do his dirty work. Arrogant fool. You've crippled 2 people. We won't tolerate this at the banquet. Everyone attacked together. Several figures leaped into the arena. These were all top martial artists. Min Yinqing, the Yin Kingblade, ranked 11th, Baishui Realm, level 1. He Yuan, Poison Dragon Whip, ranked 10th, level 2. Tung Chen, Gentleman's Sword, ranked 6th, level 5. Hu Shaoxian, Twin Sword Gentleman, ranked 5th, level 6. Rin Jiadong, Yinyang Sword, ranked 2nd, level 8. The crowd gasped in disbelief. Everyone was stunned. 13 top experts from the Imperial capital's martial leaderboard surrounded me, their internal forces surging with murderous intent. They stared at me, making no secret of their intent. Your Highness, please grant us permission to join forces and slay this villain. Yes, this banquet is sacred. We cannot allow such a wretch to ruin it. Regardless of your title, you crippled our brothers, so we shall cripple you, they sneered. The first prince feigned hesitation. Brother Yu, what do you think? Should I agree? I knew this was a prearranged trap. My heart turned cold. The prince intended to use these noble heirs to kill me, spreading the blame so Su Long couldn't retaliate. Fine. I have tolerated you enough. You push me at every turn. Do you think I dare not kill you? I laughed, my voice chillingly cold. These hypocrites accused me of brutality while ganging up to murder me. Su Jiu prepared to intervene, but I waved him back. Step down. You chose to walk into hell, so don't blame me. I glared at the 13 arrogant prodigies. Come, all of you. If I don't kill you, I am unworthy of the name Su. I accept this challenge. I stood alone, my presence radiating a brutal, unyielding dominance. A real man fears no battle. If I didn't kill them, I would renounce my name. Arrogant, shameless wretch. The 13 prodigies sneered, their eyes filled with contempt. With 13 of them, they believed I had no chance of survival. Rin Jiadong grinned. Little prince, we challenge you to a life-death duel. Do you dare? This was their true goal. A life-death duel was a traditional, brutal custom where only death ended the conflict. No rules, no limits. Only death ends the duel, someone whispered. The crowd was shocked. This was clearly a provocation to force me into a corner. By using the rules of the life-death duel, they ensured Su Long couldn't seek revenge. Rin Jiadong is shameless. He knows he can't beat me alone, so he drags 12 others into it. 13 Baishui realm experts against 1? This is a slaughter, not a duel. Even those who favored the first prince felt uneasy. The public outcry against the 13 grew as they realized this was the prince's command. My resolve hardened. If I refused, I would be branded a coward. If I accepted, I faced death. The first prince's schemes were truly venomous. Ling An'er and Shangwan Wan'er stood up in alarm. Su Jiao urged me to refuse, knowing the odds were impossible. Scared, Rin Jiadong sneered. A coward. If not for the god of war protecting you. A life-death duel? I accept. I interrupted with a calm smile. Rin Jiadong laughed. Witnesses, please. The little prince accepted voluntarily. If he dies, it is not our fault. Granted, the first prince said softly. Shameless, the Yi family young master spat. Even those who had mocked me earlier now glared at the 13. They finally realized the entire event was a setup by the first prince. The trap was laid bare. Rin Jiadong sneered, looking at me with contempt. Are you ready, little prince? The crowd turned to me. Thou heart. I'd like to see if your heart is harder than my blade. I said coldly, holding my wine flask. Rin Jiadong sneered. Martial arts aren't about talk. I stood alone in my white robes, looking lonely and indifferent, drawing pity from the onlookers. People realized they had misjudged the young prince, who was no waste, yet now faced martial experts intent on his life. Ling An'er and Shangwan Wan'er watched my lonely figure with aching hearts. Su Jiao clenched his fists, his eyes burning red. Bound by the life-or-death duel, he couldn't intervene, though he burned with rage at the injustice against his master. Su Jiao gritted his teeth. To think the Imperial capital's thousands of geniuses cannot tolerate a rising eye. I am ashamed to be among you. The Yi family young master roared in agreement. I am ashamed to be among you. The attendees at the banquet felt a suffocating sense of indignation. They felt as if they were in my shoes, forced to fight against shameless enemies. The first prince finally shouted, I declare the life-or-death duel begin. He couldn't wait any longer. My natural charisma was threatening to steal the entire atmosphere of the banquet. As the order fell, Rin Jiadong shouted, Attack together. 13 martial geniuses formed a prearranged formation, their killing intent surging as they surrounded me. Moving like dragons, they circled me, their combined momentum pressing down like mountains. The 13 acted as one, their power peaking as they locked onto me. The young prince is in danger. The crowd held their breath, fearing for my life. Rin Jiadong sneered at the silent me. You will die today. The 13 geniuses lunged, their weapons aiming for my vitals. The sheer pressure of their gang chi left me with nowhere to hide. I remained calm, my eyes narrowing with a mysterious glint. I took a deep drink from my wine flask. I felt a mysterious pulse from the true Emperor's sword, as if the divine weapon were speaking to me, drawing my consciousness deep within. Secrets, killing intent, and the crushing loneliness of an eternal peak flooded my mind. You're dead. Rin Jiadong felt ecstatic, his blade inches from me, eager to pave the way for the first prince. Then, suddenly, I looked up, my eyes blood-red, reflecting the phantom of the true Emperor's sword. A terrifying sword intent erupted, shaking the heavens. My aura surged. With a flick of my sword, I whispered, one sword, light peace, and slashed out. A visible ripple expanded from the blade, sweeping across the 13 geniuses. Puff, puff. Rin Jiadong and his group were struck by an invisible force, vomiting blood as they were thrown back 10 paces. I smiled coldly. The crowd was stunned, murmuring in disbelief at my mastery of sword intent. Rin Jiadong coughed blood, sneering. You used sword intent. As a Baishui realm martial artist, can you even manage a second strike? Kill him. Again. Rin Jiadong roared, leading the others in another charge. Their attacks were even more ferocious, fueled by the desperation of a life-or-death duel. Sword intent. I discarded my flask, my killing intent exploding. Is meant for killing. With blood-red eyes, I raised my sword. I want you all dead. My voice was arrogant and domineering as I swung my blade. One sword light piece tilts the world. The full technique unleashed. A dazzling golden sword intent tore from the blade, sharp enough to pierce the heavens. Oh no! Rin Jiadong's face changed, but before he could speak, a loud explosion echoed. The golden light struck the 13 geniuses. Rin Jiadong couldn't react as the energy sliced through him. He looked at me in disbelief. He tried to speak, but only a gurgle escaped. His body split perfectly in two from the forehead down. The cold, killing intent froze his organs. Not a drop of blood spilled. He died with eyes wide in terror. Rin Jiadong fell, while the other 12 remained frozen in their defensive stances. Suddenly, bloodlines appeared on the others, and all 12 bodies split in two. 12 corpses collapsed, leaving only a deep trench in the ground as a testament to the strike. The trench marked the path of the sword intent. Silence gripped the arena, followed by gasps of shock. He killed 13 experts with one sword. Is this a dream? This technique is too overbearing. He's so young. If he grows, he could surpass even Su Huimi or the god of war Su himself. Everyone stared in awe at the young man standing proudly on the stage. With blood-red eyes and unmatched power, I had made my name, proving I belonged among the top geniuses of the Four Directions continent. Ling Yin'er and Shangwan Wan'er watched me with fervent eyes. The first prince was stunned. His elaborate trap had been shattered by a single strike. He signaled his black-robed guard, who stepped forward and accused. The fight was over. Why kill them? Your cruelty is a sin. The crowd frowned at the guard's shamelessness. Are you blind? It was a life-or-death duel. I sneered, turning to walk toward the main dais. In a life-or-death duel, mercy was not an option. Stop! Don't come any closer, the guard shouted, rallying others to block me. More black-clad figures appeared, shielding the first prince. The first prince locked eyes with me through the wall of guards. Back down. You are only in the Baishui realm. Do not offend the first prince, the lead guard commanded arrogantly. These 20-plus guards were all Ranshan realm experts, far superior to the young geniuses. I ignored them, stepping onto the stairs. You fine. Don't blame us for being ruthless. Attack. The black-robed guard sneered, shouting. Su Yu intends to harm the first prince. Seize him. Guards swarmed forward, internal force surging with murderous intent, using the accusation as a pretext to take me down. Su Jiu stood up, sneering, and roared. You dare capture my master? Kneel. Boom. A powerful internal force erupted from Su Jiu, an overwhelming aura flooding the banquet hall and stunning the attendees. Nirvana realm. The crowd gasped, shocked that my guard was a master of such caliber. Thud. 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 The black-robed guards collapsed as if struck by a heavy blow, their internal force shattered by Su Jiu's shout. As I walked forward, they instinctively knelt in humiliation. I ignored the guards, walking straight toward the first prince with my sword in hand. What are you doing? The first prince asked, suppressing his rage. I smiled, poured myself a drink from the prince's table, and remarked, good wine. If you like it, consider it a gift, the first prince replied coldly. My sword flashed past the prince's face, causing him to stumble in terror. What are you doing? Treason. I simply sheathed my true emperor's sword. The first prince turned pale, seething with resentment at his own helplessness. I don't need gifts for things I like, including the rewards for this banquet. I signaled, Su Jiu, take these items and the fox women. 10 fox women stood nearby, holding the 9-tailed spirit fox cub and a box containing the rewards. Su Jiu lifted the heavy box while Shangwan Wan'er gathered the women. I'll take the rewards myself, Your Highness. I looked down at the prince. Don't be nervous. I won't kill you. I knew that killing the prince now would endanger myself and implicate God of War Su Long, as the capital was heavily guarded. The timing wasn't right for rebellion. I turned away, saying, Su Jiu, get the carriage. We're leaving. Under the gaze of the crowd, I departed. I left as lightly as I arrived, taking the glory and rewards of the banquet with me. Humph. The first prince watched me go, his expression twisted in humiliation. The banquet is over, the first prince declared. The guests bowed respectfully and began to disperse. Though they remained polite, everyone knew the first prince's reputation had been severely damaged. The underlying tensions of the banquet were clear to all. The prince's failed scheme against me exposed the volatile, near-open hostility between him and the Su prince's estate. The guests now had to reconsider their allegiances. It was a grave concern for everyone present. My display of strength had shifted the political winds away from the first prince. With the old emperor incapacitated, the choice lay between the ruthless first prince and the rising, powerful me. The comparison sparked dangerous thoughts in the minds of the elite. The first prince realized this might be the final banquet he could use to secure loyalty. The thought made him tremble with fury and frustration. Damn you, Suoyang. He gritted his teeth, his hands shaking with rage at how easily I had ruined his plans. He smashed a wine pot on the floor. Your Highness, calm down, his guards pleaded. Useless fools, the prince roared, his heart filled with murderous intent. Summon the heads of the Su, Zhong, Min, He, Tung, Hu, and Rin families. His voice was cold and venomous. These were the families I had offended. The prince decided I must die, but not by his own hand. I'm curious to see if you can handle the wrath of these families, the prince sneered. A cold, murderous glint shone in his eyes. System, congratulations. You have won the title of Martial Champion. Plus 10,000 public support energy. System, congratulations. You have won both Civil and Martial Champion titles. Plus 20,000 public support energy. I noted that personal victory yielded significantly higher rewards. I returned to my estate. I left the rewards and fox women to Shangwan Waner, taking the nine-tailed spirit fox cub to my room. System, how do I heal it? I asked. I carefully placed the unconscious cub on a soft cushion. This was a legendary creature. If raised, it would possess power rivaling an immortal. The system scanned the cub with a white light. System, there are 2 ways to heal the cub. 1. Purchase a high-level demon beast pill from the Myriad Realms Mall. 30% success rate. Cost, 10,000 public support energy. 2. System-led healing. 100% success rate. Cost, variable. I couldn't afford the pill, and I preferred the guaranteed success of the second option. I chose the second method. Proceed with the second option. A warm white light enveloped the cub. I watched my public support energy drain rapidly. System, healing complete. 40,000 public support energy consumed. Partial recovery. A second session is required. I winced at the cost. I was left with only a fraction of my hard-earned energy. The light faded, leaving me with barely 2,000 points. The cub stirred. System, will it try to escape? I worried about the creature's reaction to a stranger. System, no. The healing process has adjusted its loyalty. You may rest assured. The system announced the nine-tailed spirit fox's stats. Name, none. Age, juvenile. Race, snow fox/nine-tailed spirit fox. Loyalty, 100/100. Status, adoring the host. Quality, transcendent immortal seed. Strength, common beast. Talent, Way of the Nine Tails grants 9x cultivation speed and 9x resistance to inner demons. Those within 100 meters also gain 9x martial Dao cultivation speed and enhanced clarity of mind. Status, critically injured. The 40,000 public support energy was well spent. I nodded, puzzled as to why the fox was already in an adoring state toward me. I had only seen this status with Nian, Waner, and Anur. As I pondered, the fox awoke with a crisp, melodic sound. The fox shook its fur, stood up, and opened its eyes. Its eyes were like black gemstones, and its snow-white fur resembled fine silk. A noble, adorable creature that invited affection. Swish, 9 large, fluffy white tails unfurled, swaying elegantly and nearly enveloping its petite frame. The fox timidly approached me, sniffing my fingers with its small nose. It licked my finger, looking up with human-like attachment. We locked eyes in a moment of profound connection. The atmosphere grew heavy with emotion. Swish! I suddenly grabbed the fox by its scruff, lifting it up to inspect it. Are you a boy or a girl? The romantic moment shattered. The fox was stunned by its master's sudden crudeness. I checked its belly. It was smooth and featureless. A girl, then. Am I playing raising dodgy now? The fox struggled, eyes welling with tears, looking pathetic. It's my rule to check, I muttered awkwardly. The fox whimpered in dissatisfaction. Realizing it understood me, I smirked. Since you keep singing, I'll call you an. It's settled. You're an now. I'll take care of you. I laughed, excited by the prospect of raising a juvenile dodgy. An chirped and nimbly climbed onto my shoulder. Swish! The 9 tails wrapped around my neck like a scarf as Inin curled up on my shoulder. From afar, it looked like a beautiful, warm white fur collar. Though a supreme treasure, Inin was a transcendent immortal seed. Due to her head injury, She needed recovery via public support energy and low-level myriad beast pills from the Myriad Realms Mall to solidify her foundation. After arranging for the fox woman to serve as a maid, the two women returned to find the fox on my shoulder. I was reviewing Jinui reports while the exhausted and slept. Young master, is that the fox? So cute. Ling and Er's eyes sparkled at the sight of the nine-tailed creature. They reached out to pet its fur, uncomfortable with strangers, and then jumped into my lap to hide. Can I sleep with it tonight? Lingener asked. I teased. If you hold her, do I get to hold you? Lingener blushed. A calm voice came from outside. Young master, a Jinui report. The women retreated to the inner chamber to tidy the bed. I called out, enter. I had 5,000 Jinui disguised as farmers throughout the Imperial capital to monitor every shift in the situation. Creak, a man in black entered. He knelt and presented intelligence. After I left the Manhua river boat, the first prince gathered over 10 family heads, including the Su, Zhong, and Min families. I read the report. The first prince had been in a secret meeting with them ever since. Yang Mingwei sensed something was wrong and sent word immediately. I tapped my desk rhythmically. How long have they been inside? 2 hours, as of this report. What time is it? Nearly midnight. I sensed danger in the first prince's movements. Is he trying to catch me off guard? I'm used. Go. Tell Yang Mingwei to keep watching. Also, send Gao Shun and Su Jiu to me. The Jinui bowed and left. The women emerged, having overheard the conversation. Working so late, young master? Lingener poured tea while Shangwan Wanner ground ink for me. Some people just won't let me rest, I said, sending the women to bed. Gao Shun and Su Jiu arrived. My eyes flashed with cold intent. I expected a lively night at the Su Prince's mansion. At midnight, the Manhua River was quiet, save for the first prince's large boat. Inside, dozens of noble family heads sat in a tense, somber atmosphere. All eyes were on the first prince. That is what happened. My condolences, the first prince said. The heads roared in fury, cursing me for crippling their heirs and killing their kin. The elders wept, mourning the loss of their families' rising stars. The 13 heavenly pride killed, along with the crippled Chao Haiqing and Rong Yunza, were the future leaders of their respective clans. My killing of those family heirs has effectively severed their bloodlines. Cultivating a Baishui realm expert by age 20 requires immense resources and talent. 20 years of investment destroyed in one stroke. The first prince surveyed the room, asking, "What are your thoughts?" The first prince asked in a deep voice. The family heads were bitter. The Rin family head sighed. "What can we do? He is the young master of the Su prince's estate. Our heirs were outmatched. We must accept it." His words reflected the shared helplessness of all present. They couldn't storm the Su prince's estate. God of War Su Long would slaughter their entire families in retaliation. Furthermore, the 13 heirs died in a fair duel, 13 against 1. Publicizing their defeat would only invite ridicule. They had no choice but to swallow their pride. The first prince sipped tea, his voice cold. "Are you truly willing to let this grudge go?" The veteran schemers caught the hidden meaning in his tone. The Rin family head stood, bowing tremulously. "Please, your highness, instruct us. Public matters are one thing, private vendettas another." The first prince smiled. "If I died by an assassin who then vanished, even Su Long would be powerless." "You mean?" The Rin head stammered. "Kill him," the prince declared, his intent chilling the room. Killing the son of the Empire's greatest marshal was unthinkable. "Your Highness, please reconsider," the Rin head urged, his eyes flickering. "Do not misunderstand. You provide the assassins. I will handle the aftermath." The first prince smiled coldly. By using these families, he could eliminate his rival while maintaining plausible deniability. It was a calculated trap. The family heads hesitated. They hated me, but the risk was immense. "With my protection, Su Long will never discover who did it," the prince whispered. The heads exchanged looks, their hatred overcoming their fear. "When?" one asked. "Tonight," the prince replied firmly. He intended to strike while I was at my most complacent. The prince smirked. "I must be feeling triumphant after my success at the banquet." "But he won't expect this," the prince noted. "However, he has a Nirvana realm guard," the Rin head pointed out. The Rin head voiced the concern. "Send your elites." I will provide a master to neutralize his guard, the prince promised. He smiled nonchalantly. Excellent, the heads agreed. They gritted their teeth and accepted. Their hatred for me outweighed their fear of Suoyang. These nobles ignored the potential consequences of their actions. If Suoyang returned to the capital, the northern frontier would be left undefended against the Orc Empire. Blinded by vengeance and prioritizing family interests over the empire, they failed to see the bigger picture. Most importantly, they ignored why the empire's own heir would sabotage the nation. No one questioned why the future emperor would risk the northern frontier. Prepare immediately. Strike before the hour of the ox. I will handle the rest, the prince ordered. He smiled cruelly. Zhou, let's see where you hide tonight. Understood. The heads departed to assemble their elite squads for the night raid. Figures merged into the darkness. Their goal: infiltrate the Su prince's estate and kill me. I will distract the guard. You kill him. Here are the maps. If caught, you know what to do. A voice echoed from the shadows. Understood. They leaped over the walls. The traversing camp guards remained oblivious, patrolling as if nothing were amiss. These were Ranshan realm elites, sent to ensure my death. The first prince's Nirvana realm expert moved silently towards Sujio's quarters. Sujio frowned, sensing something. The assassin remained hidden in the shadows outside. His mission was merely to contain Sujio. A direct clash between two Nirvana realm experts would create enough internal force to alert me. If I escaped, the plan would fail. He waited patiently. My east chamber pavilion lay beyond the garden. The assassins converged from different directions. One stopped, confused. What is it? His companions whispered. Where are the servants? The guards? It's too quiet. The assassin's voice was raspy. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. Don't overthink it. Finish the job quickly. They communicated via mental energy. They moved forward. As they entered the peach blossom forest, a strange ripple spread from the ground. Whoosh! The scenery shifted. The path vanished, replaced by a deep, dark abyss. Whoosh! A chilling wind, like the wails of the damned, echoed from the depths. The assassin stood at the precipice, one step away from certain death. The black-clad intruder stumbled back, desperately channeling internal force to steady himself. His companions also sensed something amiss. Those on the rooftops felt as if they were suspended in midair, menaced by soul-shattering realm avian beasts. The realistic stench and wind forced them to leap down in terror. Panic spread as the others encountered similar hallucinations, causing them to scramble backward in disarray. As the visions vanished, the men found themselves back in the peach blossom forest. They exchanged wary, suspicious glances. When one man tentatively stepped forward, the illusions returned with a roar. A peak soul-shattering realm berserk fierce bear lunged at him, its fangs inches from his skull. The sensory detail was terrifyingly real. It's a berserk fierce bear. The man recoiled, and the beast vanished instantly, leaving only the forest. Something is wrong, one muttered. Suddenly, the sound of rustling leaves filled the air. Pink petals drifted through the serene, ethereal peach blossom forest. Friends from afar, what a pleasure. How do you find my Su Prince's estate? Do explore. There are many surprises in store. My voice echoed from everywhere, my location impossible to pinpoint. The assassins were stunned. They had been discovered. The estate was indeed trapped. I had been alerted the moment they breached the perimeter. System, warning, the minor star array has detected intruders. Shall I operate the formation, or will you? As a fragment of an immortal formation, the minor star array possessed unparalleled intelligence, easily distinguishing friend from foe. Even the hidden Nirvana realm expert monitoring Sujio was fully within my surveillance. Nothing escaped me. I stood on the East Chamber Pavilion roof with military advisor Tian. From my vantage point, I surveyed the entire estate. The intruders were trapped within the formation-shrouded peach blossom forest. Blinded by the array, they remained unaware that Gao Shun and the traversing camp had already surrounded them. Did you know they were coming? Tian asked. I smiled. Just petty thieves, Tian. Rest easy. I gently urged her to prioritize her recovery. Tian teased. Tell me, when did you set this formation? Why can't even a dozen Ranshan realm experts break it? I offered only a smile. I kept my secrets to protect her from unnecessary worry. So cold to me now, you? Nian pinched my waist, demanding an answer. Her facade of fragility vanished, revealing her true, spirited nature. I chuckled, holding her hand. Not now, Nian. We have enemies to deal with. I couldn't lose face by being lectured by my own subordinate. Ahem. I must control the formation, Nian. Let go. I'll deal with you later, she muttered. She watched me with a mix of confusion and curiosity. The boy she once knew had become an enigma she could no longer read. I was a man of many secrets. The assassins gathered, their eyes filled with grim resolve. It's a formation. We break through and kill me. Ignore the illusions. Close your eyes and follow the map to the East Chamber Pavilion. They were death-sworn, ready to sacrifice everything for their clan. Charge! They roared in unison. Abandoning stealth, they sprinted into the forest, determined to finish the job. System, control of minor star array granted. A bird's-eye view of the estate appeared in my mind, granting me total control. Time for some fun, I mused. As the assassins neared the edge of the forest, the trap snapped shut. Close your eyes, they shouted, attempting to bypass the visual illusions by relying on instinct. Despite their efforts, they stumbled as if the ground had vanished beneath them. Before they could recover, thunder roared. The sound was deafening, striking directly at their consciousness. They felt the physical sensation of electricity coursing through their skin. The minor star array was an immortal formation. Closing one's eyes was useless against attacks on the soul. Retreat. They scrambled to turn back. Scorching, 9 nether flames erupted from the ground, searing their flesh. The pain was agonizingly real, bypassing all sensory blocks. One assassin screamed as his body spontaneously combusted. He was reduced to a charred corpse in seconds. Retreat. As they fled, the environment shifted again. Beasts of soul-shattering, realization, and nirvana realms materialized, lunging at them. Even with eyes closed, they felt the terrifying presence of the monsters. When the beasts bit down, the sensation of tearing flesh was undeniable. Arg! The assassins shrieked as limbs were ripped away, their blood spilling as if the beasts were truly there. My heavens! Standing on the roof, military advisor Nian watched the scene, her lips parted in shock. The peach blossom forest was devoid of falling petals. It was all an illusion. Though she couldn't see what the black-clad assassins perceived, she watched them twitch and collapse, dying one by one. Some suddenly burst into flames, burning to death, while others turned pitch black with hair standing on end, as if struck by lightning. Others suffered gruesome, phantom wounds as if mauled by beasts. They died with terrifying realism, yet the forest remained perfectly still. No lightning, no fire, no beasts. What is happening, Yor? Nian's eyes widened in disbelief, her expression adorably stunned. How did you do this? She gestured toward the assassins, who were frantically dodging phantom threats, and muttered, "They." I turned, finding Nian's wide-eyed expression alluring. "It's an illusion formation," I said softly, struck by her unexpected femininity. "Illusion formations aren't supposed to be lethal," she countered. Nian's worldview shattered. She had never seen an illusion formation on the Four Directions continent capable of driving Ranshan realm martial artists to such pathetic, fatal ends. Seeing my intense gaze, Nian blushed and playfully swatted me. "Fool, I'm asking you a question." She couldn't fathom where I'd learned such a technique. It defied all logic, unless it came from that world. But that was impossible. How could you know of that world? Her eyes filled with deep confusion and awe. "It's psychological suggestion," I explained. "My formation bypasses their mental defenses, acting like a heart demon to directly affect their physical bodies." I coughed, simplifying. "All illusion formations share the same principle. Master the logic, and you can inflict real damage." Even I was surprised by the minor star array's efficacy. I hadn't even activated the lethal components yet. Formations are static, but people are dynamic. One must understand the essence of a formation to wield it effectively. Whether managing territory or deploying troops, I always sought to understand the root of all things. Truthfully, I studied these formations for one reason. The illusionary aspect of the minor star array consumed far less public support energy than the lethal version. I was simply being frugal. Psychological suggestion? Heart demons. Nian looked at me with a charming, bewildered expression, her parted lips and dazed look making her incredibly captivating. I smiled, leaving her to her curiosity as she studied my profile. She had never heard the theory that illusions could mirror heart demons. Uer had truly changed. I recalled an experiment from my past life. A death row inmate, blindfolded and told he was being bled to death, heard water dripping into a basin. The inmate's body reacted to the suggestion, manifesting symptoms of blood loss until he eventually collapsed. The minor star array and the principles of heart demons worked on this same premise. It was merely a form of psychological suggestion. When such suggestion breaches a subject's mental defenses, it triggers massive physiological responses, causing insanity or even death, like the sensation of falling in a dream. If the suggestion is strong enough, the brain can manifest physical trauma, such as a fracture. This isn't a physical injury, but a manifestation of the brain, primordial spirit, reflecting the suggestion. The minor star array simply amplifies this process. It penetrates the soul, manipulating the subconscious to project intense suggestions: fire, lightning, cliffs, and beasts. The perception is so real that the assassins' bodies manifested the corresponding injuries. It was a simple concept, but difficult to explain to someone without my background. Tian lacked the scientific education of my former plane. She couldn't grasp the concept of science. Meanwhile, the assassins in the forest lay dead or dying, their blood pooling like a small lake. I had taught her a new lesson. Illusion formations could be played this way. Someone, clear these bodies. I drifted down from the roof, my white robes fluttering like an immortal. With my Bisway realm cultivation, I could briefly hover, adding to my ethereal aura. Understood. Gao Shun and the guards rushed into the forest to secure the remaining assassins. The survivors looked on in despair, realizing that over a dozen Ranshan realm experts had been decimated by this heaven-defying formation. Some had the strength to commit suicide by shattering their own hearts, but others were too broken to even move, left to the mercy of the guards. Whoosh! A snowy white figure leaped from the East Chamber pavilion and landed on my shoulder. It was Annuling. Annuling nuzzled my cheek, her round eyes filled with affection. "Awake, little one." I stroked her fur. Annuling chirped, wrapping her 9 tails around my neck before curling up to nap, unable to leave her master's side. "What is that? How cute!" Tian exclaimed, finally noticing the fox. "Wait, is that?" Tian stared, shocked. "Uer, where did you get that? It has 9 tails." Her voice was laced with astonishment. A 9-tailed white fox, could it be? Tian's vast knowledge led her to a daring, almost unbelievable conclusion. "Isn't she cute, Aunt Tian?" I whispered mysteriously. "This is my 9-tailed spirit fox." Tian froze, her affection replaced by sheer terror. A 9-tailed spirit fox, a heaven-defying creature, a legendary beast extinct in that world, now my pet? She felt dizzy. I chuckled at her stunned, adorable expression. Gao Shun approached. "Young master, 3 assassins remain alive. Shall I interrogate them?" He was furious and ashamed that assassins had breached the estate. It wasn't his fault, however. These were elite killers trained by powerful families. "Let's see them first," I replied. "Bring them here." Gao Shun barked an order, and the guards dragged the dying assassins forward, tossing them onto the ground. The guards, furious at the assassins targeting their master, were eager to execute them on the spot. "You're me?" An assassin looked up, his tone fierce but hollow. I smiled playfully. "Quite a sharp tongue, aren't you? Umph. Winners are kings, losers are villains. I have nothing to say, and you'll get nothing from us." The man in black sneered, blood on his lips. He was proud. As long as he protected his family, his death was a worthy sacrifice. If I didn't know who ordered the hit, I would still lose this game. A qualified suicide soldier, indeed. I leaned in, my gaze deep. "I don't need to interrogate you. Anyone with a brain knows who sent you. Don't try to trick me. Just kill me." The assassin panicked, gritting his teeth. "Let me guess. The Ren, Song, or He family. And the first prince is involved, isn't he? Why else would my guards Su Zhou be delayed?" I chuckled, chin in hand. The first prince's move was clever. Who would have thought the first prince would turn hostile so quickly? An ordinary person would have been caught off guard and assassinated. Unfortunately, the prince chose me, and he chose the Su prince's estate. The estate is protected by an immortal formation, Any martial artist who walks in must be carried out. The prince's plot was doomed. You. The assassin trembled, panicked. Don't make wild guesses. I acted alone. No one sent me. Take him away and execute him. I ordered. It seems I've been too lenient lately, allowing anyone to cause trouble in my home, I said coldly. My words were laced with killing intent, my eyes burning with cold rage. You. The assassin turned ashen, his spirit broken as Gao Shan dragged him away. The assassins fell into total despair. They realized I knew everything. The mission failed, their families were exposed, and those families were still in the dark, the most terrifying outcome. The initiative had returned to me. This time, I would play a bigger game to vent my anger. I wouldn't just sit and wait to be killed. I would make these families realize that provoking the Su prince's estate was a price they couldn't afford. As Gao Shan dragged the assassins away, military advisor Nian started to ask about the nine-tailed spirit fox, but I interrupted. Aunt Nian, return to your room. I have business to attend to. I turned and strode towards Su Jiu's location. A battle was underway. I had been manipulating the formation to assist Su Jiu and now needed to finish off the strongest assassin. Nian Qingyi stomped her foot, her eyes filled with resentment. She sighed, realizing her feelings for me were shifting in ways she hadn't yet fully grasped. Regardless, obtaining such a supreme treasure was my fortune. She shouldn't pry into my secrets. She returned to the East Chamber Pavilion, while I sped toward the courtyard where Su Jiu was fighting. Stepping inside, the scene shifted. A vast, scorching desert stretched out, the space seemingly expanded infinitely. This was the minor star array's strongest effect, a self-contained world. It required immense energy, so I used high-level monster crystal cores to supplement my lack of public support energy. I activated it to prevent the two Nirvana realm fighters from destroying my estate. I looked up to see two figures clashing in the sky, their internal force techniques creating terrifying, colorful shockwaves. Nirvana realm martial artists fought with extreme power and speed. Boom! Su Jiu and the assassin traded heavy blows, both covered in wounds. One was a battle-hardened warrior raised by the god of war Su, the other, an elite assassin trained by the first prince. Their fight was desperate and lethal. Where's this place? Why did you bring me here? The assassin hissed, gripping his blue daggers. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm just here to kill you. Su Jiu spat blood, roaring. You want to kill my master? I'll butcher you first. Arrogant. The assassin lunged, and they clashed again. Neither knew of the minor star array, but it didn't matter. Su Jiu's only goal was to eliminate the threat to his master. You madman, the assassin cursed. Su Jiu fought like a tiger, his internal force surging, unleashing massive blade auras that tore through the sky. He forced the assassin into a defensive retreat. I stepped forward, appearing instantly in the center of the battlefield. In this world, I was the absolute king. No one could kill me here, not even a legendary realm expert. Unless an immortal arrived, I was safe. This was the array's ultimate defense. The assassin sensed me and pulled back, eyes narrowing. I stood in white robes, watching them calmly. Master! Su Jiu shouted, relieved to see me unharmed. The assassin's eyes lit up. He was closer to me than Su Jiu was. Kill me, and the mission was complete. Die! The assassin lunged at me with his daggers. Kid, you walked right into hell. I'll take your head. The assassin grinned, his eyes mocking. Master! Su Jiu roared, desperate to intervene. But he was too far away. The assassin would reach me in a heartbeat. A Nirvana realm expert was 3 realms above a Baishui realm martial artist. I had no chance of survival. Master! Don't you dare touch him. Su Jiu screamed. The assassin laughed, his daggers inches from my chest. He looked at my calm eyes. Wait, why wasn't I afraid? I sighed softly. The sound seemed to resonate through the entire desert world. The assassin suddenly realized that no matter how hard he charged, the distance between him and me only grew, as if he were moving in reverse. What is happening? The assassin screamed in terror. Su Jiu rushed to my side, guarding me vigilantly. Sensing the bizarre nature of the world around them, he felt a heavy responsibility to protect his young master. A wretched beast? You have no right to insult me, I said coldly, hovering in the void. I waved my hand dismissively. The desert vanished, replaced by an endless, dark night sky. Below them, city lights flickered, while thick, ominous clouds gathered overhead, accompanied by rolling thunder. Where are we? The assassin stammered, completely disoriented. One moment they were in a desert, the next, the wilderness of the Four Directions continent. As Zhou stared in shock, my voice echoed. Thunder come. My voice resonated like a supreme deity or an immortal wielding heavenly tribulation. Boom! Bolts of lightning struck down, targeting the assassin with terrifying precision. He shrieked, desperately trying to dodge. There was nowhere to hide. The lightning was relentless, each strike shattering his protective gang chi. Boom! 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 Thousands of lightning bolts rained down. The first paralyzed him, the second shattered his defenses, and the third struck his flesh. A barrage of subsequent strikes hammered the assassin without mercy. Ah! The assassin screamed in despair, unable to comprehend how I could summon the heavens with a mere gesture. Was he an immortal? The assassin had no time to ponder. Within 2 breaths, his body was pulverized into dust by the celestial bombardment. Zhou, still nursing wounds from his earlier fight, watched in disbelief. He had nearly died fighting this man, yet now the assassin was reduced to ash. This was a genuine Nirvana realm expert, the first prince's top assassin, a trump card trained for years. Yet he was killed so easily by his young master. Why young master? Zhou stood frozen, his mind blank. He turned to look at me, his eyes filled with shock and awe. How did I do this? I remained calm, my white robes fluttering in the night wind, looking as detached and ethereal as an immortal who had just swatted a fly. Ding! Congratulations. All assassins eliminated. 18 Ranshan Realm assassins and 1 Nirvana Realm assassin killed. Reward: 280,000 public support energy. The system's notification chimed. I had perfectly completed the hidden system mission by using the minor star array to counterkill the attackers. The massive reward of 280,000 public support energy was well earned for taking down such high-level threats. Yet, I felt no joy, only a cold, burning rage. With a wave of my hand, I cleared the dust from the air, and the scene shifted once more. They returned to Zhou's courtyard. A Jinui agent arrived and whispered into my ear. I dismissed him and turned to Zhou. Fine Gao Shan. Take the estate's troops. We are going to settle this debt tonight. Zhou roared. Understood, his voice brimming with battle intent. Those who provoke the Su prince's estate must pay the price. Dawn is coming. I looked up, my eyes deep and cold. If I hadn't deployed the minor star array, I would have died tonight. My death would have triggered a rebellion from Suoyang, led to the execution of my loyalists, and left the women in the estate at the mercy of the first prince. You want to play hard? Fine. Let's see who is stronger. I sneered, adjusted my white cloak, and strode out of the estate. The horizon was beginning to glow with the orange light of dawn. 800 traversing camp warriors stood in perfect formation, their armor gleaming under the rising sun. The air was thick with killing intent. As I stepped out, Zhou and Gao Shun shouted, "Greetings, young master." "Greetings, young master." The troops roared in unison. Last night, assassins tried to take my life. I addressed the troops softly. Attendants brought forward the corpses of the assassins. The warriors stared at the bodies, their eyes burning with fury. They dared to bully our estate. Tell me, what must we do? My gaze sharpened as I looked at my loyal men. Though their strength was currently modest, they were my most devoted followers. Kill those who offend the Su prince's estate. Gao Shun and Zhou roared. Good. Today, we settle this debt. Remember, whoever the enemy is, if they offend us, they die. My voice was chilling. Kill, kill, kill. The warriors raised their weapons, their deafening roar shattering the morning silence. Civilians and nobles awoke in terror, drenched in cold sweat. They sensed that a beast had shed its mask and was baring its fangs. Meanwhile, at the Su family estate, a group of noble patriarchs, the masterminds behind the assassination, gathered in the hall. They were drinking and celebrating, confident in the success of their coordinated strike against me. Melodic music filled the hall, played by musicians hired to entertain the distinguished guests. The atmosphere was one of luxury and arrogance. I wonder how things went at the Su prince's estate, the patriarch of the Ren family asked. Others laughed, mocking his concern. He is just a waste who only recently reached the Baishui realm, one scoffed. With 18 Ranshan realm experts and a Nirvana realm assassin from the Bloodguard, failure is impossible. Suoyang is dead, and his estate is likely leveled by now. They toasted, reveling in the thought of their enemy's demise and their alliance with the first prince. I suppose I worried for nothing, the Ren patriarch laughed. Let us focus on helping the first prince secure the throne. Indeed, the first prince is generous. That brat Suoyang killed our heirs. It is only right he pays. The others nodded in agreement. The Zhou family is foolish for refusing to submit to the future emperor. They deserve this. Another sneered. They waited in the Zhou family hall, confident that the news of their victory would arrive at any moment. The gathered patriarchs were certain I was dead. Suddenly, a Zhou family servant rushed in. Master news. The room erupted in excited smiles. They knew the assassination had succeeded. I must be dead. Finally, is he dead? Is the Zhou prince's mansion in chaos? The patriarchs clamored, some rising in anticipation. All eyes were fixed on the servant with intense fervor. The servant looked terrified. Patriarch Zhou frowned, annoyed by the servant's lack of composure. Speak. What happened at the Zhou prince's mansion? Patriarch Zhou sipped his tea, feigning calm. Master, something major has happened. The servant trembled. Suoyang. He has led the Zhou prince's mansion troops to surround our estate. He is right outside. Clatter. Patriarch Zhou dropped his teacup, horrified. Suoyang is alive? And he's surrounding my home. Impossible. How could he survive 18 Ranshan realm experts and 1 Nirvana realm master? The others cried, panic setting in. Their faces turned pale as they realized the danger. If I lived, their assassins were likely dead. He's here to break in, the servant added. The servant was paralyzed with fear. He wasn't afraid of the nobles. He was terrified of my army. Panic rippled through the room. Stop them with our private soldiers. Get out the back and find the first prince. Patriarch Zhou, though shaken, ordered his men to seek the first prince's help. The assassination had failed. Only the first prince could save them from the Zhou family's wrath. Boom! The doors were kicked open. A bloodied, mangled corpse of a red-clad army general was tossed into the hall. Zhou entered, blade drawn, followed by a smiling me. The servants screamed in terror. Suoyang. The patriarchs recoiled in shock. Do I see a lack of hospitality? I asked with a grin. I walked in while the traversing camp soldiers neutralized the estate's defenses. Any resistance was met with immediate execution. The traversing camp, led by Gao Shan, proved far superior to the local private soldiers. The red-clad army stood no chance against the battle-hardened traversing camp. The patriarchs retreated, unable to meet my gaze. You dare break in? I am your great-grandfather. Patriarch Zhou roared, trying to mask his fear. I laughed at the protected old men. I never knew my mother. You are no great-grandfather of mine. I replied coldly. Your father married a Zhou. You are being disrespectful to your elders. Is this how Suoyang raised you? To barge in with weapons. The other patriarchs joined in, attempting to use their status to shame me. They hoped to hide behind the shield of moral authority. Old age does not equate to virtue. These shameless men were now lecturing the man they had just tried to assassinate. They glanced toward the door, desperate for reinforcements. Stop looking. My men have wiped out your red-clad army, I said, my eyes chilling. The patriarchs were stunned. 3,000 men gone in minutes? They realized I was a monster. Elders? What kind of elders send 18 Ranshan and 1 Nirvana expert to kill their own kin? I sneered. The patriarchs stiffened. Lies. I never sent assassins. I will report this to your father. Patriarch Zhou blustered. I retorted. Shall I throw the corpses at your feet so you can identify them? My killing intent filled the room. A quiet moment passed. Ridiculous. You think you can frame us with corpses? Remember the Zhou family code. Patriarch Zhou refused to break. You have no proof. You're violating your own family rules. The Zhou family forbids harming kin or commoners. You are violating your own code by attacking us without evidence. They desperately clung to the Zhou family's strict moral code to restrain me. They hoped I would be bound by my family's reputation. You talk to me of morality? You are no elders of mine. I smiled grimly. I don't need evidence or rules to settle this debt. My tone was absolute. These men didn't deserve the protection of the Zhou family code. With Beishan County and the system, I had no reason to tolerate them any longer. Seeing my resolve, Patriarch Su panicked. "What are you doing?" "Clear out the innocents," I ordered. Sujio barked at the servants to leave. The servants fled, relieved to be spared. The patriarchs watched with envy, wishing they could escape too. "Now that we're alone, let's settle our accounts," I said as a chair was brought for me. I sat lazily, gesturing toward the gathered patriarchs. "Speak," I said calmly. "How do you wish to die?" Panic erupted. "Arrogant," the Rin family's bodyguard roared. "Kill them both. Don't waste time." Dozens of guards lunged forward, weapons drawn, attempting to seize me. The patriarchs watched with desperate hope. These were elite Ranshan realm guards, heavily invested in by their families, the best in the Imperial capital. If they could capture me, the situation would turn. "Overestimating yourselves, you trash." Sujio spat the words out, his steel blade descending in a flash. A sharp, mournful blade light swept through the guards. The guards froze. You're in the Nirvana realm." A guard gasped, staring in disbelief at Sujio, while I remained unmoved in my chair. Controlling internal force like a divine weapon. This was the power of the Nirvana realm. They hadn't expected such a powerhouse at my side. Asterisk thud. 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 Asterisk bloodlines appeared across the guards' waists, their bodies slicing perfectly in two. A second later, the halves hit the floor. Blood pooled, staining the hall. The patriarchs were stunned into silence. Sujio had slaughtered them all in one strike. A patriarch stammered. You are the Nirvana realm expert of the Su family." "I am Sujio, one of the god of war Su's iron guards, now serving the young prince," Sujio declared, standing like a god of slaughter. The patriarchs looked at me with complex emotions. How lucky was this boy to have such protection? They didn't realize my true strength lay in myself. Given a year, I would surpass even Sujio. "It seems some of you won't give up until you see the river. Do I need to kill more for you to understand the situation?" I looked up, my gaze icy. My presence was that of a supreme monarch looking down on subjects. The patriarchs turned pale. Was this truly the useless, young master of the Su family? Fear and confusion filled their eyes. The Su family was notoriously overbearing. My ruthlessness surpassed even my father, Su Long. Since returning, I had divorced my stepmother, killed heavenly prides, and defied the first prince. I would kill them all. The corpses on the floor were proof. Thud. A patriarch collapsed, trembling. "Spare me, young prince." We were forced by the first prince to send assassins. I didn't dare refuse him. One by one, the others followed suit. The Run, He, and Tsang family heads, once arrogant, now knelt in humiliation. Old men fear death. They abandoned all dignity to survive. My refusal to play by the rules left them no choice. "Spare us, young prince." It was the first prince's idea. We were forced. "Please, show mercy," they wailed, shamelessly shifting the blame onto the first prince. They no longer acted like elders, addressing me as young prince to curry favor. The desire to live outweighed their pride. The Su patriarch sighed. "Everything is ruined." Thud. He knelt, pleading, "Spare my family, young prince. I will take the punishment myself." Their confession had sealed their fate. Assassinating the only son of the god of war Su would ruin their reputations and make them targets of the empire. The first prince had played them. He would face no consequences, while they would be the scapegoats. They had been blinded by hatred and failed to see the board. "Spare you? Give me a reason. You have one stick of incense." I smiled. I wanted them dead, but I was a calm, calculating monarch. I would weigh every action to ensure I gained from the fallout with the first prince. Being strong wasn't enough. One had to use their brain to survive this chaotic era. My words offered a glimmer of hope. They were terrified of my power and willing to pay any price to live. Myron family offers 10 million gold coins. The He family too. And the Tsang family. 10 million? Are you treating me like a beggar? Does the Su prince's estate look like it lacks money? My eyes flashed coldly. The patriarchs panicked. They offered beauties, land, treasures, and antiques, anything of value. "Not enough?" I said, shaking my head. They were at a loss. What could possibly satisfy me? The Su patriarch spoke up, attempting a veiled threat. "Young prince, think carefully. If you kill us, You will face the combined wrath of the capital's families. It will only hurt the Su prince's estate. He was trying to strike at my weakness. The Su patriarch was cunning, using the threat of collective retaliation as a bargaining chip. I had been holding back specifically to avoid such a disastrous outcome. Are you threatening me? Do you think I don't dare kill you? I stared intensely at the Su patriarch. I wouldn't dare. I only wish to help. If you spare us, I swear we will never oppose the Su prince's estate again and will provide our family's resources to support you. The Su patriarch pleaded, his voice shaking. Yes, young prince. We all swear it. Let the past be forgotten. We will give you the promised benefits. Please, show mercy. Leave a path for us to meet again in the future. Their knees were numb, but they dared not rise, waiting desperately for my verdict. The noble patriarch's words disgusted me. Enough. I interrupted Patriarch Su coldly. Oaths. Guarantees? I might believe commoners, but you lot. Capitalists and politicians prioritize profit over integrity. Their promises are worthless. I wanted to leave a way out, but you sought my life. I sneered at the kneeling elders. Your promised benefits are far too meager compared to your status. Since you don't seem to value your lives, I'll reluctantly kill you. Suoyang, I murmured. Suoyang stepped forward, blade drawn, radiating killing intent. Pale and desperate, the patriarch of the He family cried out. Young prince, tell us what you want. We'll do anything to live. He began kowtowing violently. The others, despite their pride, followed suit, kowtowing in humiliation to survive. Only now did true regret set in. They cursed the day they agreed to the first prince's assassination plot, wishing they had simply stayed out of it. Remorse gnawed at them like ants. Spare us, young prince. We'll do anything. The patriarchs wailed, tears streaming down their faces. They glared at Patriarch Su with venomous resentment. It's your fault for provoking him, they thought. Patriarch Su remained silent, smiling bitterly. He had underestimated me, touching a nerve he shouldn't have. He felt utterly defeated, unable to fathom what I truly wanted. Amidst their wailing, a playful glint appeared in my eyes. Let me think about it. I gestured. Suoyang sheathed his blade and stood behind me. The patriarch sighed in relief, feeling they had cheated death. They stared at me with desperate, longing eyes. Young prince, just name your terms. Their only desire was to cling to their remaining wealth and lives. Don't rush. Stay kneeling. I rested my chin on my hand, my expression unreadable. I had already decided, rather than slaughtering them and facing a vendetta, I would exploit them for profit. But I wouldn't make it easy. I needed to vent my anger over the assassination attempt. I had to teach these old men a lesson they wouldn't forget, ensuring they never dared target the Su prince's mansion again. Yes, we'll kneel. Take your time. They nodded frantically, terrified of provoking me further. They waited in anxious silence for my judgment. Absolute power dictates the rules of the game. The strong dominate the weak. This eternal truth held firm as Gao Shun's voice echoed from the hall. Young master, the first prince's envoy is outside with several soul-shattering realm experts, demanding a standoff. Gao Shun's tone was grave. The first prince is here to save us, the patriarchs cheered. Hope surged through the kneeling men. They assumed the first prince's intervention would force me to yield. Even Patriarch Su smiled triumphantly. As their patron, the first prince had to intervene. He likely intended to use this to undermine the Su prince's mansion's reputation. Without concrete proof of the assassin's origins, my assault on noble estates looked like an act of rebellion. The first prince was certain I wouldn't dare act recklessly in broad daylight. If I crossed the line, the first prince would have the perfect pretext to strip my title and imprison me. That was why he sent an envoy instead of an army. The first prince held the initiative. He had planned for every contingency, including the failure of the assassins. I, however, refused to play by those rules. I'll teach you a lesson today. Even the gods can't save you now. A sense of dread washed over the patriarchs. Suoyang, I commanded. Go, kill the soul-shattering realm experts, and bring me the envoy's head. My tone was lazy but lethal. The first prince's authority meant nothing to me. The Su family's creed was simple. Fight with absolute, brutal dominance. Understood. Suoyang roared and strode out. Minutes later, Suoyang returned, tossing the envoy's severed head onto the floor, his blade still dripping with blood. The envoy's eyes were wide with shock. He never believed I would actually kill him. The patriarchs turned deathly pale, trembling in terror. I had actually killed the first prince's man. Their hopes shattered into absolute despair. Their emotions swung violently between excitement and paralyzing fear. Even Patriarch Zhou stared blankly at the rolling head. "Gentlemen, I've decided on the price you must pay to survive." I smiled calmly, as if I had merely crushed a few flies. "Submit to my terms," the noble patriarchs pleaded, voices hoarse. Realizing they were trapped by an unpredictable young prince, they accepted their fate. "Simple," I smiled, snapping my fingers. Snap! Dark contracts materialized in midair, drifting down before the nobles. They were demon contracts. One for 10,000 public support energy. The nobles stared in stunned silence, bewildered by my supernatural display. I smiled. I had staged the appearance of the contracts to intimidate these cunning foxes, preventing them from thinking clearly. "Young prince, what exactly are the terms?" Patriarch Zhou began, but was cut off. Clang! Zhou drew his blade, stepping forward with a fierce roar. "Sign or die. Choose now, no nonsense." "We'll sign. We'll sign," the nobles cried, fearing Zhou's blade. With no other choice, they had to yield to survive. "Sign your names, and I shall spare your lives," I said with a smile. 8,653, merged with 8652, the demon contracts, based on the 136 rules of slavery, automatically took effect upon signing, with my mercy as the trade-off. By signing, they became my demon servants, their lives and loyalty now firmly under my control. I preferred controlling these powerful families and their vast resources over simply executing their leaders. Some nobles secretly mocked me, believing a mysterious contract couldn't truly bind them. They planned to unite with the first prince to retaliate once they survived, signing the contracts with this hidden intent. Whoosh! The 13 contracts shattered into black mist, merging into my brow. I noticed a momentary stiffness in the nobles' eyes before they returned to normal. They knelt in unison, bowing respectfully. "Greetings, master." "System, why are they so obedient?" I thought the loyalty increase was gradual. I asked. 8,664, merged with 8663. Host, after your last purchase, the system linked with the Demon Lord system to refine and deepen the contract's effects. The answer left me stunned. Linked? What is the Demon Lord system? Are there others? I frowned, realizing the implications. If others possessed systems, I would inevitably clash with them as I grew. If they were hostile, my current advantage might be neutralized. I realized how little I truly understood about the Grand Lord system. Many systems exist to cultivate their hosts into plain supremes, though they vary in grade and power. "Continue," I demanded. I waved the servants aside, needing to focus on this critical information. The system was my greatest trump card. I couldn't afford to be careless. Linking allows systems to share data and resources, a form of friendship and trust between systems. The Demon Lord system is a friend of the Grand Lord system. Its host is a fellow countryman from your previous life's timeline. The system provided this context to help me understand their relationship. How are systems ranked? Who is stronger, you or the Demon Lord system? I asked. The vague classification left me wanting clarity. I needed to know my standing for future planning. Most are low-grade systems. Only a few hosts have the potential for infinite growth. Warning: host authority insufficient to reveal specific rankings. Increase your territory level to learn more. Frustrated, I asked, "Then what are you? Where do you come from? What is your true purpose?" Host authority insufficient. I felt a chill. Could I trust the system? Rest assured, most systems are soul-bound to their hosts and cannot betray them. We are inseparable, twin souls. 8,687, merged with 8686. The system's mechanical voice seemed almost comforting. It was a unique life form or artifact. "Can I trust you? Are we truly twin souls?" 8,690, merged with 8689. The system prompted me to perceive the connection myself. I was shocked. A quiet moment passed. A quiet moment passed. A quiet moment passed. My consciousness dove into my sea of consciousness, losing sense of my physical form. The space was vast and white. I heard my own heartbeat. No, it was two heartbeats, perfectly synchronized. Host, that is the pulse of the soul. The system corrected. A massive sword appeared in my sea of consciousness, towering like a pillar. Is this your true form? I gasped. The sword was immense, seemingly endless. No, this is the form you wish to see. I am you, and you are me. I am your second soul, inseparable. 8703, merged with 8702. A sudden realization dawned on me. I manifested in my sea of consciousness beneath the blade. Sword come. I commanded. The true Emperor Greatsword shrank instantly to its normal size. I gripped the true Emperor's sword, sensing a heartbeat-like pulse emanating from the blade. It felt like an extension of my own body, responding to my will with perfect familiarity. Though it lacked physical power, the connection thrilled me. A true soul twin, where two souls shared a single origin. It wasn't just a sword, it was the Grand Lord system. Blade, I commanded. The weapon instantly shifted into a domineering, razor-sharp blade. Fan. It transformed again into an elegant jade-boned folding fan. I marveled at its ability to change form at will. As I imagined new shapes, the system chimed. The sound pulled me back from my consciousness. I heard the system clarify. Host, that is not my physical form, but my soul. Realizing this was the system's origin, I snapped awake. Young master, you're awake, Zhou noted. I tried to query the system about its nature, but was blocked by insufficient permissions. Giving up for now, I asked, how long was I out? 1 hour, Zhou replied. Has the first prince made any moves? Is the Zhou prince's mansion safe? I asked. I needed to ensure no disasters occurred during my absence. I couldn't afford any setbacks. No, the first prince has remained quiet, Zhou confirmed. I nodded, observing the 13 noble patriarchs waiting for my orders. As demon servants, they were now remarkably obedient. By subduing these 13, I had effectively have the first prince's influence in the capital. Since the first prince was unaware of their true allegiance, they served as perfect hidden assets. I smirked. Zhou, tell Gao Shun we are returning home. The patriarch Zhou stepped forward, eager to serve. Master, please, give us your commands. They were desperate to prove their value, a side effect of their fanatical devotion under the demon contract. The demon contract was absolute. Once signed, it was binding. No one on the Four Directions continent could defy its power. Act as if nothing happened. Continue to serve the first prince, I instructed. I gave them a final look and walked out. My connection to them allowed for silent, perfect communication. I preferred keeping them as deep cover agents over immediate resource extraction. The patriarchs bowed deeply, their eyes filled with fanatical loyalty. We respectfully send you off, master. I was pleased. I had secured 13 powerful hidden cards. I led my troops home, ignoring the stunned onlookers. News of my assault on the Zhou mansion had already spread throughout the capital. I had slaughtered 3,000 red-clad army soldiers and killed the first prince's envoy, yet walked away unscathed. The Zhou family remained silent, and the first prince had yet to react. Rumors swirled that I was retaliating for an assassination attempt by the Zhou family. People speculated the Zhou family was angry over the annulment of the marriage. The young master is unstoppable, the crowd whispered. He's a true Zhou, bold and ruthless. The commoners were awestruck. Even the capital's playboys were inspired by his audacity. I want to be just like him, they cheered. While the city buzzed with gossip, I and the first prince were focused on weightier matters. As I returned home, the first prince faced a sudden, overwhelming crisis. In his study, the first prince glared at his black-robed guard. Is this report true? Your Highness, the Orc Empire has sent a peace treaty. The guard whispered the news. A peace treaty from the Orcs was of paramount importance. It eclipsed even the incident at the Zhou mansion. Historically, such treaties were always humiliating for the Tian Empire. While it signaled a shift to non-military plunder, it was also a chance for the first prince to prove his leadership. What does it say? The first prince demanded. He had to rely on his own intelligence network before the official delivery. The document is still en route, but I have the contents here, the guard said. He handed over the translated text. The document had been translated from the Orcish tongue. The tone was arrogant, aggressive, and suffocatingly proud. The orcs demanded the Tian Empire become a vassal state, paying annual tributes of 100 million gold coins, 10,000 tons of grain, 80,000 bolts of silk, and 50,000 sets of Ranshan realm gear. They also demanded the surrender of 1,000 miles of northern frontier territory and key military strongholds. Furthermore, an orc prince would arrive to sign the treaty and claim a princess as his bride. It was not a peace treaty, but a list of extortionate demands. If accepted, the empire would be bled dry within a century. Damn them! The first prince slammed the document down, his face dark with rage. He wasn't just angry at the demands, but at the orcs' condescending posture. The war wasn't over, and I hadn't lost. Why should the orcs act like victors? He saw this land as his future inheritance, and the orcs' encroachment was a direct insult to his authority. The first prince narrowed his eyes, flickering with rage. Those orcs are too arrogant. The black-robed guard cursed as well. Every human in the Qingtian Empire harbored a deep-seated hatred for the Orc Empire. It was a blood feud spanning generations, with no possibility of compromise. Historically, peace talks between the two empires were merely brief pauses in a cycle of endless conflict. The Qingtian Empire had always been the weaker party, and thousands of years of Orcish dominance had instilled a deep sense of inferiority in its people. Along with that came the frustration of a race unable to rise. The first prince took a deep breath and asked, "Does Suoyang know about the peace proposal? Is he acting up?" The guard bowed. Suoyang is unaware. He followed protocol, filed the proposal, and remains at the northern frontier. The first prince exhaled in relief. If that madman Suoyang knew, he would surely execute the messengers and reignite the war. Both Suoyang and I were thorns in his side. The Su family's stubborn refusal to submit threatened his carefully laid plans. The first prince pondered. The terms are unreasonable but expected. Escort the orc envoys and the prince to the Imperial capital. I will negotiate the details myself. Everything is negotiable. War and peace are merely tools for bargaining and securing interests. Some wage war for the people, others for selfish gain. Given the Orc Empire's strength, it was natural for them to demand a humiliating treaty. Truthfully, without the warmonger Suoyang, the Empire's situation would be far worse. The first prince cared little for material losses. He sought to leverage this peace process for his own benefit. With the old emperor still in a coma, this was the first prince's first time handling such a major diplomatic event. Ambitious, he hoped to achieve what his predecessors could not, securing better terms or negotiating as equals. These were feats no ancestor had accomplished. Success would bolster his reputation, win over the nobility, and potentially accelerate his path to the throne. "Your Highness, what about me?" the guard asked. "Ignore him for now. As long as he doesn't kill those family heads, I'll deal with him after the orc matter is settled." The first prince waved his hand with a hint of disdain. Despite his anger at my actions, he held the man in deep contempt. He believed I was unworthy of being his rival. While the first prince focused on the grand game between empires, I remained mired in the petty politics of the capital. The prince felt his own vision and stature were far superior. Even if I was no longer a waste, I was no match for him. "Understood," the guard replied. "By the way, what is the name of the orc prince?" the prince asked while reading. "The orc emperor's favorite son is coming, likely protected by legendary realm experts. His name is Andrew, of the lion race." The guard detailed the intelligence. "Andrew," the first prince chuckled. "I hope he isn't too hideous. I'll have to find him a princess to marry." The guard was stunned, feeling a wave of discomfort. Why should an imperial princess marry an orc? The prince seemed far too eager to please. Is he trying to appease the orc empire? The guard quickly suppressed the treasonous thought. As the future crown prince, he couldn't possibly be doing that, or the empire would be doomed. "What are you thinking about?" the first prince asked, looking up. "Forgive me, Your Highness. I was just thinking about the guard rotations for tonight," the guard stammered. He knelt, trembling. If the prince knew his true thoughts, he would be a dead man. "No matter. You've worked hard. Send some gifts to the Su, Ren, and He families as a gesture of my concern." The first prince waved him off. He was too busy to care about the capital's affairs. These gifts were the extent of his charity. He remained unaware that his 13 loyal dogs had already changed masters. "Yes, The guard bowed and left the study. Meanwhile, at the Su Prince's mansion, I sat in my study with 2 intelligence reports. One from the Jinui regarding the peace proposal in northern frontier, the other a letter from Suoyang. Interesting. Father knows the contents, but holds back his troops. He's planning something big. I smirked, my eyes glinting with amusement. Andrew is coming. The capital is about to get interesting. I burned the reports. I tapped my fingers on the desk, a habit from deep thought. Beside me, the little fox Annuling slept, her 9 tails twitching. She had been sleeping since consuming the beast pills. I sighed, rubbing my temples. I missed my sisters, who had been away for half a year. They were studying abroad, and their absence weighed on me. Their images haunted my thoughts. Shaking off the sentimentality, I checked my system interface to calculate my remaining public support energy. I had spent 130,000 points on demon contracts for the family heads. I had 150,000 left, a decent reserve. Just as I debated whether to save it or strengthen the traversing camp, the system chimed. Ding. Host, the Demon Lord system has sent a connection request. Approved? I was taken aback. A connection request? I was curious about what would happen if 2 systems linked. Being cautious, I asked for clarification first. System, what happens if we connect with this Demon Lord system? I asked firmly. Ding. The consequences depend on the request. This request is for data synchronization to enhance and complement both systems. The system provided an answer. Interconnected data? What does that mean? I asked, raising an eyebrow. System, host, think of this connection as a data or OS upgrade for your computer or phone. If I agree to this, what's in it for me? System, your Myriad Realms Mall will be expanded with new items, and you will gain access to the Demon Legion unit charts. I realized that any improvement to the Grand Lord system directly benefited me. Does the Demon Lord system benefit too? System, yes. It will gain access to non-demonic items and the ability to cultivate non-demonic warriors. Anything else? Who is the host of that system? And what are the different connection methods? I was like a curious child, determined to get to the bottom of things. This was natural. The system was my foundation, and I needed to master it completely. System, for the host's protection, I cannot disclose the other host's identity. Connection methods include data exchange, attribute sharing, unit complementarity, combat support, energy gifting, and material swapping. The system spoke in its usual calm, steady tone. After half an hour of back and forth, I finally waved my hand. Fine, accept the request. Go ahead and upgrade. System, Myriad Realms Energy Bridge established. Connection successful. Importing new data. While the system upgraded, I relaxed and read a book. Both systems worked like diligent students, sharing resources and knowledge to complement each other. Suddenly, a new notification chimed. System, host, the Demon Lord system's host has requested a cross-plane call. Approved? Wait, the Demon Lord wants to talk to me? I was stunned. Yes, host. Approved? I was bewildered. I could actually talk to another system host? System, if you do not respond within 10 seconds, the request will be automatically declined. I cleared my throat. Approve. A massive, flickering screen popped up, emitting static as it stabilized. The static cleared to reveal a high-tech, metallic command hall. The image was crystal clear. A young man appeared on the screen. He wore a sharp black suit, his face cold and angular, with deep, icy eyes. His sharp brows, high nose bridge, and thin lips exuded an air of nobility and elegance. He held a dragon-patterned sword, and peerless treasure wreathed in azure dragons. I felt a suffocating pressure, a dragon's might, emanating from the man. The man felt both noble and terrifyingly evil, as if he contained a powerful abyssal demon capable of tearing through the void. Both men were young, with black hair and dark eyes. One had eyes like stars, the others were cold, filled with murderous intent. Their gazes locked across the plains for the first time. I felt a strange, inexplicable sense of familiarity and excitement. So this is another human with a system? He didn't seem so different. Why did it take so long to connect? The young man frowned, looking at me with clear dissatisfaction. Small matters, I laughed awkwardly. By the way, you look sharp in that suit. Humph, the man replied, his gaze still cold but carrying a hint of hidden emotion. I smiled warmly. Sir, may I ask your name? Bai, the man replied concisely. I rubbed my nose. Mr. Bai, the system says you're also from China? We're practically fellow countrymen. I am Chinese, but we are not from the same place. Our worlds exist on different timelines. They are completely independent planes. Mr. Bai cut him off coldly. I raised an eyebrow, annoyed by the rejection, but I held my tongue, sensing the man's immense power. Then, Mr. Bai, what can I do for you? I asked with a polite smile. I decided to stay calm. It's rare to meet another system user. I'm curious about a few things. My system is the same level as yours, Mr. Bai said coldly. I froze. How did you know what I was thinking? Don't worry, I won't jump through the screen to hit you, though I could. Mr. Bai smirked. You can read minds. I growled, still as hot-headed as ever. Despite that refined appearance, Mr. Bai chuckled. I don't read minds. I use the 3 divine arts and 3 dark divine arts. The Great Prophecy art allows me to analyze and predict, which mimics mind reading. You should know that tricked. I was stunned. The Great Prophecy art, a skill requiring hundreds of millions of public support energy, was just a trick to this man. I was shocked that my dream skill was considered trivial by Mr. Bai. Was this guy sent to crush my confidence? The power gap was massive. I felt a wave of frustration. Why was this guy so overpowered? I squinted, noticing a subtle shift in the man's demeanor. Do you know me? I whispered. I do, Mr. Bai replied. I opened my mouth to ask more, but suddenly, boom. Warning. Red Queen 5.0 system under attack. 3,856 origin-level enemies detected. Repel them. Piercing alarms and explosions erupted from the other side of the screen, shaking the command hall. Activate defenses. Qin Zhou, lead the troops. Red Queen, prepare to jump to Adam's divine kingdom. Mr. Bai frowned, muttering in frustration, these bastards, only I can. Adam, hard to resist, must quickly. Static. The system screen flickered with static, the signal distorting as the connection became unstable. Mr. Bai Yan's voice grew faint. Mr. Bai, you seem to be in trouble. Do you need help? I asked politely. I wondered if my meager resources would even be useful to someone so powerful, feeling a strange, inexplicable sense of glee. I felt an odd, unsettling satisfaction at seeing Mr. Bai Yan in a difficult spot. Good luck, Mr. Bai. See you later. I smirked at the static-filled screen. Suddenly, a shout of freeze stabilized the signal. My face darkened. Mr. Bai Yan stared coldly at me, having stabilized a cross-plane signal with a single word. Master. A man in black holding a Tang Dao knelt behind Mr. Bai Yan. 3 super-origin entities have appeared. The Demon Dragon Legion has lost 8,000. The Abyss Knight Legion is wiped out. Young Master Fu is critically injured, and Li Su is trapped. Please decide, fight or retreat. The warrior was covered in blood and glowing dust, his left arm severed, his chest bearing deep wounds, and his blade chipped. Despite his godlike aura, this warrior was battered and broken from a desperate, bloody battle. Mr. Bai, your situation seems dire. Shouldn't you deal with that first? I urged. I felt pity for a fellow system user faring so poorly. I am aware, Mr. Bai Yan replied calmly, reaching toward the screen. I held my breath, watching intently. The void shattered like a mirror under Mr. Bai Yan's touch, his hand reaching through the screen into my space. Swish, Mr. Bai Yan turned his hand, dropping a scroll onto my desk. Rules limit what I can give you. Mr. Bai Yan smiled faintly. Take it. Break through your origin realm quickly and return. I need you here. This is... I picked up the scroll, confused. Mr. Bai, I don't understand. You will in time. Mr. Bai Yan stood up. Master, what now? The warrior asked anxiously. The control hall shook violently, cracks appearing on the floor. Fight. Mr. Bai Yan smiled, gripping his dragon-patterned sword. But master, there are 3 super-origin entities. You were bettered in for 300 years after killing just one. The man, Zhou, pleaded. Zhou begs you to retreat. Let us cover you. I would rather see 3,000 planes fall than lose you. Zhou kowtowed, his desperation making it clear to me that Mr. Bai Yan was in grave danger. With 3 super-origin entities against a wounded Mr. Bai Yan, victory seemed impossible. If I retreat, do you want Li Su and the others to die? Do you want Brother Yu to vanish before he can even grow? Mr. Bai Yan's voice remained calm. Bai Yan, rose from nothing, carving my path with a single sword. Today, I will carve a future for brother Yu and the others. I am a demon to them, and a demon to all living things. If they dare hurt my people, I will slaughter them all. Bai Yan's arrogance and dominance filled the air. Facing death, he showed no fear. He had never lost, and he wouldn't start now. As Bai Yan disappeared from the screen, I remained stunned. It felt like a dream, yet the scroll in my hand was undeniably real. He called me Brother Yu, and gave me this. I muttered, processing the information. I was shocked that someone as powerful as Bai Yan could be pushed to the brink of death. What kind of battlefield could force such a godlike man to face death with a smile? He's buying me time. I gripped the scroll, my heart aching with a sudden, intense urge to fight alongside him. Overcome by a soul-deep connection, I wiped away tears, shocked by my own reaction. I hadn't cried since arriving on the Four Directions continent. Damn it, have I gone crazy? I felt bewildered and solemn. The weight of the day's events would take a long time to digest. The little fox woke up, licking my hand to comfort my restless spirit. Forget it. Let's see what he gave me. I sighed and opened the scroll. I was too weak to worry about grand schemes. I needed to focus on my own growth. Abyss Demon Hound Legion Troop Blueprint. Summons the Special Abyss Demon Hound Unit. Legion Cap, 100,000. Origin, Abyss Plane. Cost, 100,000 public support energy. Not bad, Mr. Bai is generous. I smiled. A blueprint worth 100,000 energy with a 100,000 unit cap was exactly what I needed to solve my troop shortage. Satisfied, I stored the blueprint in my lord's backpack. I remembered the system notifications that had chimed during the call and decided to check them. Seeing the logs, my face darkened and my mouth twitched. A quiet moment passed. The screen displayed a long list of notifications. Ding! Cross-plane call exceeded 10 seconds. Consumed 100,000 public support energy. Ding! Cross-plane call exceeded 20 seconds. Consumed 200,000 public support energy. Ding! Cross-plane call exceeded 30 seconds. Consumed 300,000 public support energy. Total duration 17 minutes 36 seconds. Consumed 10.56 million public support energy. Are you kidding me? Why so much? I roared internally. Ding! Piercing planes and time axes requires massive energy to maintain the channel. Ding! The Demon Lord system host also spent 1 million public support energy to send the scroll. I smiled bitterly. If I didn't have the energy, how was the call established? Ding! The Demon Lord system host paid all energy costs for the call and the transfer of the item in advance. The final notification finally put my mind at ease. Mr. Bai Yan is incredibly generous, tossing away millions of public support energy without batting an eye. I stroked my chin as In the fox leaped onto my shoulder, nuzzling my cheek. I chuckled and fed her a few low-level Demon Beast pills. Low-level Demon Beast pill. Provides minor healing for beasts and a slight cultivation boost. Costs 100 public support energy. For some reason, Anin is obsessed with these pills, even though they don't heal her specific injuries. I spent several thousand public support energy to buy a stash of these pills as snacks for her. Anin swallowed the pill, eyes squinting in delight, and curled up beside me. I stroked her fur, noting that having the little creature around significantly accelerated my own cultivation. I felt confident I would soon break through the peak of the Baishui realm and reach the Ranshan realm. The Su Prince's mansion enjoyed a few days of rare tranquility. The first prince seemed to have forgotten me, focusing entirely on preparations for the Orc Prince's arrival. Though he didn't provoke me directly, he still found ways to be petty. The old emperor remained unconscious, unable to summon me to reward my achievements in Beishan County. As regent, the first prince had the authority to meet me, grant rewards, and finalize the marriage to Princess Mingzhu. Instead, he used the excuse of being busy to indefinitely delay meeting me. Military advisor Nian complained about this, frustrated that my hard-earned merits were being stifled by his rival. I didn't care. I prioritized my own power and the growth of my territory over official accolades. As for Princess Mingzhu, I felt nothing for a woman I had never met. I spent these days monitoring Beishan County via the system and focusing on my cultivation. In my leisure, I relaxed in the garden, surrounded by the three women's music and dancing, enjoying a life of luxury. It was a lifestyle enviable even by immortals. Half a month had passed since I arrived in the capital, and I was pleased to see Baishan County steadily improving. Zhuge Liang's brilliance had led to a leap in the territory's attributes. Territory, Baishan County. Owner, I. Level 1, upgrade cost, 100,000 public support energy. Population, 3,658,755. Military, 5,000 Jinui, peak solidification, 800 traversing camp, Ninghun 5th stage, 10,000 Huban army, peak Ninghun, 10,000 Zhuge crossbowmen, peak solidification, 50,000 reserves, 12,000 garrison warriors, peak enlightenment. Public support, 100, status, worship. Energy, 142,316. Monthly income, 365,787. Virtual buildings, Lord's Altar, sealed. Level 2 barracks, system blacksmith shop, energy blender. Population growth had doubled thanks to Zhuge Liang's efforts in pacifying refugees and bandits, leading to a surge in garrison numbers. Public support reached 100, with the populace shifting from mere goodwill to outright worship of me. These improvements resulted in a monthly income of 365,787 public support energy. For someone who once struggled to save a few thousand, this income was staggering, fueling my rapid growth. The system provided detailed reports on Zhuge Liang's administrative and military management. While Baishan County lacked the scale of a major nation, its military strength was now on par with any duchy. I believe there was still room for growth. System, monthly reward of 365,787 public support energy issued. The next day, the notification arrived. Combined with my savings, I now possessed 500,000 public support energy. Since I wasn't in Baishan, I couldn't upgrade the territory, leaving it at level 1. In that case, I'll go into seclusion, I muttered, determined to use my 500,000 energy to reach a new level of power. For the next 7 days, I secluded myself in the East Chamber Pavilion. I barred all visitors, allowing only the 3 women entry. I sat cross-legged, 9 spiritual energy vortices manifesting around me. Spiritual energy from the capital slowly funneled into the mansion. I carefully controlled the intake to avoid suspicion while maintaining high efficiency. As I cultivated, my energy reserves plummeted, but the mansion's warriors benefited from the dense spiritual aura. Gao Shun and Su Jiao found their own cultivation speeds increasing due to the ambient energy. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. System, 56,985 public support energy consumed. Breakthrough successful. Host reached Ranshan Realm, 2nd stage. The system chime echoed. I opened my eyes, calming my internal force as the vortices vanished. Excellent. I smiled, feeling the surge of power within. I rose and leaped into the air, hovering effortlessly. My white robes fluttered as I enjoyed the sensation of flight. Unlike the Baisui realm's brief levitation, the Ranshan realm allowed for sustained, free flight. I was in high spirits. The dissipation of the vortices signaled the end of my seclusion. As I stepped out, I was greeted by Su Jiao, Gao Shun, and the traversing camp, who shouted in unison, "Congratulations to our lord on your breakthrough." I shook my head, amused. This wasn't the style of the stoic Gao Shun or Su Jiao. Only the women in my life would orchestrate such a display. I spotted military advisor Nian hiding behind a willow tree, giggling. I waved the soldiers away. Back to work, everyone. The soldiers saluted and dispersed in perfect formation. Military advisor Nian, get over here. I called out, my face darkening. Nian approached timidly, batting her eyes. Are you angry? What do you think? I replied, maintaining a stern expression. I felt helpless as Nian Qingyi toyed with my battle-hardened soldiers. Don't be angry. I just wanted to cheer you up. Nian Qingyi cradled Anin the fox, looking at me with innocent, soft-spoken pleas. Poor Anin struggled to breathe against Nian Qingyi's chest, squeaking as it tried to escape. Mastering divine arts and shaking the world? Why not just call me Ancestor Suyu while you're at it? I snapped. They are soldiers, not a parade troop. Don't do this again.